Hello everyone, welcome to another stream of Love, Money, Rock and Roll. I was trying to remember what I did last time, because it's been a couple days since I played this. And then the second I saw this screen I remembered, oh yeah, I kidnapped someone. How could I forget? That's funny. Well, Irina's had enough of this, but sorry, I guess. You need to be kidnapped so I can find love. So we're gonna see what's going on here, and maybe we'll complete Himitsu's chapter. We'll see. Anyway, enough! She said heavily at last. So, do you believe me now? Why couldn't you just start with that, instead of making yourself out to be a who knows what? Because I don't trust you, I guess, and spare me your angry rhetoric about patriotism. I don't trust anyone. I just can't afford to. In any case, your behavior is over every line. If there's no other way to show you that I'm serious and ready to do anything to protect myself and Himitsu, this had to do. Anything you say? And what are you going to do if I refuse? I'll hand these documents over to Ito. I gave a short reply as if we were chatting about something mundane. Think what lies on the scales. On one side, we have a couple of school kids, while on the other, the interests of the most powerful country in the world. As I see it, the choice is pretty obvious. Unless, of course, I'm missing something. Irina remained silent and was clearly picking the right words in order to avoid saying anything I wasn't supposed to know. I, on the other hand, had already laid out all my trump cards and was waiting for my opponent to respond. Can I have some water? I grabbed a bottle I had prepared in advance, removed the cap, and brought the neck to her lips. This isn't exactly comfortable. Sorry, but the service was already included in the price of the room. She winced but took a few gulps. A thin trickle ran down her chin. In an abrupt motion, Irina tried to wipe it with the label of her jacket. I couldn't help but smirk, and the young woman shot me an angry look. Like this. Arrgh. If you don't want any problems, I need to contact the embassy within half an hour. Why are you always trying to get something out of me without giving anything in return? Not even promising anything? Is this how you work with your informants? Informant my ass. Hang on, can I check something? Okay. I think all is good. Informant my ass. She grinned genuinely. It seemed that Irina sincerely believed that I was indebted to her just because I was born in the USSR. Or maybe it wasn't about that at all. Name your conditions. But whatever the case, I really did have the documents of interest to the KGB. Irina grew serious again. I want you to take me to Himitsu and Himitsu to the USSR. Is she fine with it? I'm still a USSR citizen. At least I was born there, and Himitsu's mother is Russian too. She lives in the USSR. We have the right to go back. Don't you think taking the daughter of a prominent Japanese intelligence agent out of the country like that isn't the brightest idea? Yeah, but I'm a high school kid. When do I ever have bright ideas? I think these documents are more important to you than any possible diplomatic consequences. You're right about that, but where are the guarantees I'll do what I promised, or that I won't be ordered otherwise? You must realize I'm just an agent. There are people who gave me orders, and they have the center, their own senior leaders in Lubyanka. Building of state security. On this place is a building in Lubyanka Square, Moscow, served as the main headquarters of the USSR. State securities from 1919 to 1992. I was alive at that time. Oh my god. If I don't contact my Japanese friend after we arrive in Russia, he will hand all the documents over to Ito and tell him everything that happened, including this conversation. Of course, they could make me say whatever they needed there. Suppose, she said and fidgeted in her chair. You know, Nikolai, a great intelligence officer is dying in you. I find all of you and your games deeply disgusting. You can't use people to achieve your goals like they're just tools. Oh, and I want to know what really happened to my parents. That's the simplest question. The car accident was organized by people from Kobayashi Corporation because they suspected your parents were spying on the project for the USSR. But that wasn't the case, right? If it was, I wouldn't be sitting here, don't you think? She squinted cunningly. I still don't get it. They thought they were spies, sure, but why was it all so convoluted? Why leave me alive? Why not just take all three of us somewhere into the forest? You better ask your dear Ito about that. My dear, in another situation, we'd discuss this in detail, but right now I'm only interested in a way for Himitsu and myself to leave this damn country. Keep in mind that Ito's house is being watched. As much as you're fond of improvisations, I want to suggest going there in broad daylight. I sighed and closed my eyes. Probably shouldn't believe your promises. That's obvious. What choice do I have? Let's just hope that communists are more honest than capitalists. I'm glad that you finally realized that. For my part, I promise that you and your girlfriend will be safe. We will get you to the USSR undamaged. I'm glad to hear that, but we aren't some package. The only thing you haven't mentioned is the label saying don't tilt. I sighed, came closer to her, and untied her hands. She punched me in the face. Irina stood up, stretched herself, shrugged, and rubbed her wrists with the traces of tape's wear. Then she scoffed in annoyance, looking around the room, and finally smirked victoriously. Amateurs. On the way back, we were completely silent. Kyosuke was constantly trying to hide his face, although I had told him a few times it wasn't needed anymore. Irina was sitting behind us, apparently bored. Just in case, we had blindfolded her so that she couldn't see Kyosuke, and put a large bucket hat on her, which I had prudently thrown in the bag at home. It seemed as if nothing special had happened to her, as if she was kidnapped on a regular basis. Actually, thinking about it, that she did accept my conditions maybe too quickly. In any other situation, it would have made me nervous, but at that moment I didn't even want to waste nerve cells thinking about that. We're here. Kyosuke dropped us in the city center and immediately left at full throttle. Irina reached into her purse and took out a tiny piece of paper. When you're ready, call this number. Don't worry, it's a secure line. Then you'll receive further instructions. And call from a telephone box. From a telephone box. I repeated automatically. My confidence instantly evaporated into Tokyo's smog, the carnivorous city with its vibrant streets, the rush hour, and ferocious skyscrapers. This was her territory, although Irina hadn't lost her spirits even when tied up. Until then, she said and disappeared into the crowd. It felt like as if this kidnapping had been part of her plan to begin with. So Himitsu was being guarded. Then I had to think of something. I seemed to have gotten used to trickery and deception, and the spy roller coaster no longer made my head spin. All in all, for a start, I needed to contact Himitsu. Yesterday she had told me she'd call, but what was the point in waiting? Looked at the clock and immediately ran to the train station. Only half an hour was left before the end of the class. Students were leaving the school with smiles on their faces, carelessly chatting with each other. I paid no attention to them, focused on watching the windows of the second floor. At this point, I couldn't care less about the norms, school rules, or traditions of Japanese society. If everything worked out, soon they wouldn't be here anymore. Himitsu's classmates were preparing for a school festival. Some girls dressed as maids looked very cute, to say the least. I shook my head to drive the inappropriate thoughts away. There was Saya-chan, dressed in a normal school uniform for some reason. Hey! I called to her and started waving my hands. The girl pulled an annoyed expression but walked out of the classroom. What do you want? Something important. Do you want to help Himitsu? Help? What happened to her? She hasn't been at school lately. Saya frowned. It's something about you, isn't it? No time to explain. I need you to give her a note. A note? Why? Why? Because. Let's say the story with changing schools is still happening and I don't have much time. Why can't you do it yourself? I sighed. It really felt like an interrogation, because she's, how do I put it, grounded, and nobody would let me see her. So, she gave it some thought, but apparently failed to understand the seriousness of the situation. If I do nothing, Himitsu would be taken away forever, and this time much farther away than her grandma's house. And you'll never see her again, and neither will I. Saya, I'm not joking. Fine, yes, I got that. She responded unsurely. So you had to kidnap her from her house, like a fairy tale prince? I didn't know if she liked romance stories, but at the moment Saya looked way too excited. Hey, Ruins! What's up? You're first! Well done. You're playing No Man's Sky, it's fun. Alright, good. You'll have to tell me about it when I'm streaming, like something I can actually pay attention to chat well to. But yeah, it's good to see ya. How you doing today? Except this isn't a fairy tale, and I'm risking my very real neck. I'll do it. The girl replied with the look of a soldier going into their final battle. Don't forget to bring me Himitsu's answer. I told her where and when I would be waiting for her. Alright, good luck then. I gave her a piece of paper folded in quarter. my house was empty, and quiet like a crypt, it would take you at least 40 billion years to explore all galaxies. Well, ruins, you better get started. But yeah, I'm glad you're having a good time. It felt like I was the first living person to enter the kingdom of Thanatos in centuries. I didn't need to worry about the KGB surveillance and hope the Japanese wouldn't expect me to appear right under their noses. As for Catherine's mother and the Americans, well, risk had become an essential part of my life. I sneaked inside using the alley between the plots of land to take a final look at the house where I have lived for the past 11 years. It's anyone who plays. Anyone who plays, it'll take that long. That's a crazy big game, huh? Everything here was awfully familiar. The old horse teapot, the painting on the wall, the table with the katatsu we had used for family gatherings, and even recently bought game console. 5 GB. That's a lot, right? My heart tightened in silent sadness, my body bound by pity for all those inanimate objects that had become a representation of home to me. This happens when you see a broken, discarded toy. I start thinking about how it used to bring joy and happiness, yet it was thrown away mercilessly to rot in a dump among thousands of similar exiles. Is it even possible to feel sorry for things? It's small compared to many games. Oh, gotcha. Well, like I said, I'm glad you're enjoying it. Keep on enjoying it too. Explore everything you can. What was going to happen to them without me? Would they find new owners or end their lives in loneliness, not needed by anyone? Is every person merely the sum of one's feelings, thoughts, deeds, social connections, and status? Existence determines consciousness, and I as a person became the way I was mostly because of all these things, these walls and overgrown garden, and the roof would leak when rained. Was it sentimentality? Maybe. Maybe even Himitsu wouldn't be able to fully understand this childishly naive attitude toward life, but I'd already had to drop everything that made up my material world once before. Even if it hadn't been as stressful as it would have been as an adult, children are much better at absorbing new things and adapting to changes. According to the laws of the USSR, where I was going to return to, Nikolai Anokin was considered to be an adult. But what was my life going to be like there? You will look into the game. It's a game you think you would enjoy? Alright. Tell me about this. Tell me about what you're playing. Probably no easier. Besides, I was going to take Himitsu with me, and we would live together as a family. Would not, will? Oh, you... I don't know what you just said there. My thoughts were going back and forth at mind-blowing speed, and somewhere on the edge of my mind a feeling of anxiety appeared, a primal fear of the unknown. Was I really doing the right thing? And more importantly, would it really be better for Himitsu? Maybe we could hide somewhere in the south, far away from Tokyo, or the snowy mountains of Hokkaido, although Kobayashi Corporation's reach was long enough to get to us anywhere in Japan, not to mention Japanese intelligence. And a tall European would be unlikely to get lost among short farmers and shepherds. Besides, Himitsu liked Russian culture, language, literature, arts, and so on. She had long dreamed of visiting Moscow and Leningrad, and although she never mentioned it, she would almost certainly be happy to see her mom. The setting sun colored the kitchen in warm colors, spilling its last rays over the roofs of neighboring houses. It was already dark in the yard, and the crowns of red trees, highlighted by the light of the ending September, carefully covered the dim bushes with a carpet of fallen leaves that now looked almost gray. It was symbolic that I was leaving the house today, as if I were ripping a page off the calendar. Looking closer, you could see that the entire garden was covered in such pages, keeping memories of different events of my life. April 1986, August 1976, September 1985. Decided not to take anything with me except for Ichinoshi's documents still hidden under the porch. That would be safer, that would be simpler. Take the video game system, though. Take that! You can't take everything at once, so my memory of this house would be preserved in its entirety, like a photo, like mine picture with no missing pieces. I patted the roll of bills in my pocket, gave the kitchen one final look, and held the air that I'd never mistake for anything else, and made my way to the street using the path I'd already gotten used to. Goodbye, my home. I am a stranger here now. No! My house! A gust of cold autumn wind blew away a tear it found somewhere. My new home. I dropped by Kyosuke's house to ask if Himitsu had called him. She hadn't, not yet at least. Maybe she wasn't allowed to use the phone? But Ito couldn't have handcuffed her to a radiator after all. Of course, there was the possibility she still hadn't talked to him. Perhaps he was at work. After all, he did have an official job, a cover, or whatever they called it. Saya-chan arrived on time and immediately handed me a note from Himitsu. Gotta admit, you actually look cool now, senpai. Was she really going to start calling me senpai? In a different situation that might have even made me feel proud of myself. In the note, Himitsu wrote that she agreed with my plan, even if she thought it dangerous. Just as I said, there were no other choice. No other choice. Her father wasn't letting her out of the room, the house was guarded, and from what she heard when he was on the phone, she understood that going to her grandma would seem like a vacation compared to where he intended to send her to. Then there were words of love and apologies. I was moved, and Saya-chan apparently noticed that. I don't want to say it, but I may have been wrong about you. When I saw Himitsu today, she was crying while writing this, and your look when you were reading it, she got completely embarrassed and turned away. So what's the plan? I think you're better off not knowing, for your own safety. I just wanted to help. Thanks, but no need, I mean it. If everything goes right, I'll handle it on my own, and if not, what does it sound like this plan is dangerous not only to you, but also to Himitsu? Better, tell me, who else did you see at her place? Who else was I supposed to see? Just Himitsu. So nothing suspicious, unusual? No. Then maybe they were waiting for me. Well, I had to be extra cautious then. Not that the idea even resembled anything cautious to begin with. Well, then I also have to admit that you turned out to be not that useless after all. I smirked in good nature. Screw you, Saya said, more of a sake of decency. Anyway, thank you again. Good luck, take care of her. Will do. I waved to her in farewell. And now for the most difficult part. While I was getting nostalgic at home and then waiting for Saya, Kyosuke was making preparations. We met a few blocks away from Himitsu's house when it was completely dark. Did you make it? I did, he blurted out, handing a black plastic bag over to me. My friend looked very proud of himself. I hesitated, but still took the bag, looked inside and swallowed. It had seemed much easier in theory. Smoke grenades. Kyosuke had found a recipe in the Anarchist cookbook. Nothing too difficult, just paper and ammonium nitrate, commonly used as fertilizer. It was all easy to find at any gardening store, but seeing Kyosuke's smiling face was only making me more scared. It sounded like he was the one about to join the Viet Cong. And the lighter? Here, snatched it from my dad. He gave me a gold-covered, sparkling Zippo lighter. I fidgeted with it in my hands. Why this one? You could just buy a plastic lighter. Everything has to be just right. Throwing smoke grenades at Japanese spooks doesn't sound right to me. But it's your plan, he grumbled. I only said we needed a distraction. In any case, it was too late to change anything. Alright then, if we don't return in 2 hours, leave. Kyosuke looked at me seriously. It seemed like he'd finally grasped that this wasn't a game. Nick, let's just skip this part. Good luck, I'm sure everything will be fine. I just nodded in response, turned away, and slowly walked toward my destiny. At first, every step required incredible effort. Every step. My legs were like lead, and I felt like I had to strain every muscle to move them. Again and again, just half a meter closer at a time. Sina would have been pleased with this analogy. My watch read 11. I was hiding around the corner and looked at Himitsu's house. At the first glance, there was nothing unusual about it. I had to figure out where the surveillance were. Maybe in the garden or even inside in the living room. Fortunately, not a single car was parked in the street. What would I do if I were Ito? Most likely try to block all Himitsu's escape routes. Then it would be logical to place his enforcers along the perimeter, not expecting that I would use the main entrance. In that case, the most important thing for me was to get the timing right, down to the second. I took a few deep breaths and, not looking around, scrambled into the house. It took me a lot of effort to not stop when I approached the gate. Every step required immense energy. So far, everything seemed to be alright. I walked around the house, pressed myself against the wall, and lit 3 smoke grenades one after another, hands shaking. Made of tightly folded newspapers, they were burning gradually but quickly. I didn't have more than 30 seconds to act. Soon I was holding 3 smoke grenades in my hands, and I threw them into the garden, took a camouflage coat out of my bag, put it on, and jumped into the bushes. I threw a firecracker and began to wait. The seconds before the explosion seemed to last hours. And like Kyosuke, I never had any passion for pyrotechnics and treated them with due fear. Finally, I heard the explosion. Bang! For a moment, my whole world was swallowed by the sound, then my ears popped. Everything before my eyes started to vibrate more rapidly, as if confirming field theory. The heat is on. I whispered and shut my eyes. When I opened them, Ito and a couple of thick-built men in black suits were already in the garden. Every fraction of a second mattered. I crawled a few meters to make sure that I was out of their sight. I jumped to my feet and dashed to the front door. Quietly but confidently, I knocked on it with my fist 3 times and then once more. My heart skipped a beat, I forgot to breathe, and everything went dark before my eyes, and my ears still rang from the explosion. I swallowed anxiously. Once, twice. I could hear vague shouts coming from the garden. Himitsu hadn't appeared, but despite that, I had to move on with the plan. I lit a few more grenades, dropped one of them right under my feet, and a couple more in front of the house, closer to the fence. "Where are you, Sunshine?" I asked her in my thoughts. Finally, the front door opened, and drowning in smoke, Himitsu appeared at the doorstep. "Nico-kun!" Her whole body was shaking. Her face was frozen in an expression of humble anguish. It's probably how ancient Christian saints looked before their execution. I was acting on autopilot, perceiving reality as if I were watching an American action film, not starring in one. Quickly! Hi. I grabbed Himitsu by the hand and dragged her away from the house, further from Ito and the life she knew, to freedom and uncertainty, but not to that desired freedom from Greek myths, the freedom from the god's will, but rather the carnivorous liberty of the pioneers of the Wild West, where every choice comes at a high price. The shouts were getting closer. Himitsu turned around and I had to squeeze her little hand tighter. Suddenly, gunshots sounded in the smoke behind us. I felt like I had been struck by lightning. I even jumped as I ran. Fear paralyzed my whole body, and my first reaction was to stop. That was a primal instinct, to freeze and pretend to be dead, hoping that the predator would believe it and wouldn't go for carrion. But doing so now was tantamount to suicide. I cast a quick glance at Himitsu. She seemed to have entrusted me with her destiny entirely, and I stopped reacting to what was happening in the real world. Our eyes met, and a little smile appeared on her face. That turned out to be enough for me. I pulled myself together and, without looking back, ran forward, dragging Himitsu along. Finally, we got far enough to catch a breath. They were most likely shooting in the air, probably to scare us. "Everything is going to be all right." I tried to calm her down and myself. "I'm not afraid. What matters is that we're together." Those words made my heart feel light, and even Ito didn't seem to be pursuing us anymore. Even if what she said was stupid, it was necessary to be afraid, as fear is what helps us survive. Even if we couldn't stop and needed to keep running, let the world wait. I pulled Himitsu closer and kissed her, warm tears running down my cheeks. "Forgive me. Forgive." "Why are you apologizing, Nico-kun? For not realizing the obvious for so long. Forgive me. I love you." "I love you too." I don't know for how long we were standing there as one, drowning in an intimacy we had never known before. But then after minutes or maybe hours, Himitsu pulled away and asked me in a serious tone, "What are we going to do next?" Next we have a meeting with someone." Picking up our pace to a quick walk, we passed a few blocks and got on the train. Only after being at a considerable distance from Ito, I could manage to relax somewhat. I called Irina from a telephone box. An unfamiliar male voice responded in Russian. "Hello." "I've done it." For a good half a minute, the receiver was silent. "On the waterfront, in an hour." And right after these words, I heard short beeps. Well, everything's going as planned so far, except of course for the fact that I didn't have the documents they needed on me. Whoops, I'd given them to Kyosuke. After all, nothing would have stopped the KGB from taking them from me when we met. Unfortunately, it also meant that we couldn't see each other anymore. It was necessary to ensure that the documents were secure, and more importantly, that Kyosuke would be safe. "Alright, sit down and listen to me." Himitsu sat obediently with their huge green eyes flashing in the night like 2 moons. "Now we'll go to the waterfront and meet a KGB agent there. If everything works out fine, you will help us get out of the country. You always dreamed of going to the USSR. Okay, if you say so." She said calmly, as if we were discussing what we were going to eat for dinner. Good then, don't be afraid of them. They can feel your fear, like predators. Just stand next to me and try not to stare at her too much. But also don't just stare down. Right, imagine she's Kyosuke. They also say it helps to perform in public if you imagine your entire audience is naked. That's not true, by the way. Okay, Himitsu said in the same serious tone. Oh, and what else could I say? I can only hope Irina would keep her word. Perhaps taking Himitsu with me wasn't the best idea, but I had no one to leave her with. Himitsu would be hunting us, and he would first and foremost check all my friends and classmates. And leaving Himitsu alone was just dangerous. As much as I loved my sunshine, I had to admit she wasn't the smartest girl in the world. The further we went from the city center, the more confident I felt. Himitsu was holding my hand firmly, as if someone was trying to take me away from her, and staring out the window, watching the nighttime Tokyo pass by. Perhaps for the last time in her life. I was so tired of thinking about different scenarios for the upcoming meeting that I just wanted to face it as something inevitable. Although perhaps I had to think about Himitsu's feelings too. Hey Eliza! What's up? Hola, how you doing today? Welcome back to this crazy, insane game. I'm currently escaping with Himitsu, by the way, if you want a little update. And will we succeed? We'll see. Doing solid? Heck yeah, that's good to hear. I'm good too. I'm doing well, I'm playing this game, and we're gonna beat it, maybe. Running away from home was much more stressful for her than this entire spy mess for me. When we walked out of the station, an announcement came that there would be no more trains for the day. Ah, lucky us! Himitsu smiled, grabbed me by the hand, and shivered. It was getting noticeably cold in the night, and I regretted that I hadn't taken any warm clothes. I could see the lights of the restaurants on the waterfront, but there were barely any people on the streets. As we were slowly walking along the houses, I saw Irina sitting behind a table in a ramen cafe. Well, when we came closer, she gave us a wide smile and invited us to join her with a gesture. An empty bowl, a bottle of sake, and a couple of glasses were standing on the table. Hey, Finn. Boo's scared? No, okay. I don't know. That was kinda scary. You coming in just like that, going, Boo? How you doing today, Finn? Awesome to see you today. I do make excellent ramen here, and more importantly, they don't speak a word of Russian. I sat across from her and pulled a chair for Himitsu. If you haven't guessed it yet, this is Himitsu. She speaks Russian. Nice to meet you. Himitsu nodded slightly in response. You're doing good? I am doing quite well. I'm hoping to beat this chapter today. If we can't do it then, well, fudge. But that's my big goal today, to beat this chapter. Can I do it? Can I do it, Finn? We'll see. Exactly as she was taught. Do you want something to eat? A drink? It's my treat. We're not in a joking mood. Well, it's your choice. She pulled her elbows on the table, locked her fingers, leaned forward, and rested her chin on her hands. Her expression returned to its professional impenetrability. Do you have the documents? Is our deal still on? We keep our word. I'd like to have a guarantee, though. You can do it, thanks. I can do it. Yeah! Nikolai, do you intend to test my patience again? What do we have in actuality? You've only shown me a single page. It's very interesting, yes, but an insignificantly small piece of the whole picture. How can I be sure that you have the rest? How can I be sure that you won't get rid of us once you get the rest? Himitsu grabbed my hand under the table, but didn't show in any way that she was afraid. We're going in circles. And what you've done this afternoon, you're not in a position to set conditions. Maybe, but let's stick to our initial agreement. As soon as we leave the plane in Russia, I'll make a call, and my man here will hand the document over to you. Irina was staring at me as if studying me. Probably how a zoologist examines a predator newly arrived at a zoo. Attentively, meticulously, without due deliberation, but clearly realizing his superiority, protected from its sharp teeth and claws by the thick bars of a cage. Sometimes I think I understand what you found in him. She addressed Himitsu. Himitsu didn't respond. But be careful, men of his type are fickle by nature. How about we stay on topic? It's about the power we stay... It's about power we stay hungry, we devour. The Rock, something like that. Forgot the text a bit. Nice. It's the power within the completing the visual novel, right? That's how it goes. As you wish, I'm going to have a drink. She poured sake into her glass and looked at it thoughtfully for a while. Are you sure you don't want some? I ignored her question and just frowned. You must realize that I'm doing you a great favor by having this conversation with you two. After all, we'll be fine without these documents, and for the Japanese, they have no value. Then what are we doing here? I went all in. Risk is a noble thing. She smirked. Although I think that the documents must be at your fat friend's place, by the way. Tell him that he should fix his car. It shakes a lot in the back. I froze, startled, unable to respond. And what could I say? We couldn't find the documents at your house, so thank you for the hint. Checkmate. I should have trusted my feelings when I thought the kidnapping had been too easy. Are you sure you don't want a drink? She grinned. Kyosuke, what did you do to him? Oh, don't worry, nothing so far. And it's in your power to keep it that way. Hydrate? Oh, I will. Don't you worry, there will be hydration. So what else do you want from me? Irina was just toying with me. Maybe she wanted to get revenge for the kidnapping. Had I really been hoping to fool the KGB? You can't do this to us! All of a sudden, Himitsu piped up. I've always dreamed of visiting my mother's homeland. I've been imagining the country is beautiful, spanless, and filled with people whose hearts are filled with generosity and righteousness. My father does something bad, even if the entire country does. You can show that you're better than them, kinder, more honest. She went silent, not knowing what else to say. We're not getting under the white fan with this one. I guess so, huh? I guess, suppose so. A passionate speech like that might work in an antagonist in a novel, but obviously not in reality. But Irina sat there thinking, you just keep demanding money, protection, patronage, and all you give in return are the tiny pieces of information. Think they're worth it. You know, I don't really need to sit with you here. She stood up abruptly and approached me. I just wanted to look at you in the eyes when I say it. Wait! Himitsu shouted, and Irina stopped for a moment. If you don't need Nico-kun's documents, I have others for you. I know where my dad keeps all the important papers. I know the combination for his safe. I took a few pages with me. She caught her breath and continued in a softer tone. It's a dossier of the people you're interested in. I looked at Himitsu, dumbfounded, but her face was frozen in an expression of self-righteousness. Here. She took a neatly folded bunch of papers out of her pocket. Irina took them reluctantly and looked them over. Who would have thought? She finally said, her voice sounding as if she were watching an impressive circus performance. You're lucky to have her. She smiled at me and turned to Himitsu again. Where's the rest? I'll bring them when we have a deal. Irina was looking back and forth between us with clear mistrust. A deep wrinkle crossed her forehead, instantly making this young woman look a few years older. Watch and learn, rookie, she said, annoyed, and I realized the threads of our lives were just in a moment taken over by Himitsu. Without her, the KGB would never be able to get this dossier. Fine, we have a deal. Call us tomorrow evening on the same number. First you will get us to the USSR, and only then we will give you the... You've shat the bed. Now sit quietly and dry your sheets. Ew, gross, Finn. Ew. Irina's gaze was virtually incinerating. Everything will be shipshape. She looked at Himitsu and smiled, then stood up and threw a 10,000 yen bill on the table. So what were you planning to tell me? Or when? I sprung on Himitsu as soon as Irina disappeared in the night. Well, I didn't know, just didn't know how to start. What was there to know? You could have gotten us killed. Gonna go play with friends now. I'll see you later, Finn. Have a good time with your pals, alright? Bye! I could only believe that fortune favors the fools. It didn't exactly resemble a well-thought-out plan. Thanks. Welcome! Have a good one, my friend. Fine, so what do you plan to do now? Tomorrow I will go home, take the rest of the papers. Go home and take the rest of the papers? I threw my arms up in the air. Your father can't wait to give them to you, I'm sure. Nico-kun? However, I couldn't come up with a better plan. I'm freezing. Indeed, Himitsu was shaking more noticeably than with every minute, and I had no time to think of a place to sleep. We certainly couldn't go back to Kyosuke's place, and I had zero idea who else would give a room to two school kids with the KGB and the Japanese Secret Service on their tail. Would you look who's here? Oh, well, the icy wind that blew from the ocean seemed to have brought it with Kagome, who appeared as if from the depths of the sea. I'm the one who should be surprised. It was indeed an unexpected encounter, and it definitely happened at an inappropriate moment. What are you doing here? Me? I live nearby. What about you two? She looked at Himitsu and slightly inclined her head. showing something akin to a greeting. Having dinner, a drink, too. Want to join us? I poured some sake in a clean glass with a theatrically slow motion and stretched it out to Kagome. I see you resolved your money problem. She threw an askew glance at the bill on the table. Our last conversation hadn't finished the way I wanted, so it felt a bit awkward. The money one, yeah, I did. I put the 10,000 yen in my pocket. It was enough for a decent hangout. Now there's a living space problem. You mean you have nowhere to live? We don't. Nowhere to spend the night. Uh-huh. Kagome mumbled and sat down on the chair Irina had been occupying just a minute ago. What happened? We ran away from our homes. I replied snidely. Don't you live alone? Well, let's just say she ran away from home, and I got evicted. That really true? She looked at Himitsu. Well, do you think I'm lying? I pretended to be insulted. I think she was unlucky to get involved with you. You don't say. That's a serious statement. I thought that Kagome would be hostile toward Himitsu since she figured out who Ito really was. The sins of the father. Iwamura-senpai, don't be angry with him. We really are in a difficult situation. See? What did I tell you? Himitsu pinched my leg hard under the table. I got it. Shutting up. We'll probably leave Japan forever soon. That's why we can't return home no matter what. Was she really trying to win Kagome's sympathy? If that was the case, it was a very smart move. You should know what we're talking about and how serious it is. Just with a sense of humor. If only I cared. Kagome replied in a bored voice, moving her gaze to Himitsu and arcing her eyebrows, apparently feeling guilty. After all, she hadn't had a fight with her. I am genuinely surprised at how lucky you are in life. You found your father, so you should have no reason to curse fate either. How is he doing, by the way? Can't complain, no thanks to you. Iwamura-senpai, maybe you have a place to spend the night, for a day or two at most. Maybe I do. She drawled mysteriously and stared at the moon, now risen above the clouds. We'd be very grateful. Gratitude is a poor payment. We can just find a hotel. I whispered to Himitsu and reached in my pocket to check whether the roll of bills was still there. It wasn't. I checked all my pockets, jumped up from the chair, put everything I had on the table, but Kyosuke's 100,000 yen had disappeared without a trace. Must have fallen out while I was crawling in the bushes at Himitsu's house. Nico-kun! Got an itch. A nervous tick. I smiled idiotically and sat down. I'm sure I looked like the person who farted loudly right in the moment of a silent pause before the climax of her performance. You aren't being followed, are you? That's the last thing I need now. She was twirling at a chopstick in her fingers and clearly trying to decide what to do with us. No, we've just arranged everything. Arranged everything, huh? Leaving the country? Will your father be fine with that? Iwamura's eyes flashed. He doesn't know I'm here. Himitsu replied confidently. I see, a real Romeo and Juliet. Would you look at that? That story didn't end so well. Kagome threw the chopsticks away and looked up. I'm not promising you a suite, but you two will have a place to sleep. We walked down the waterfront in silence, with Kagome leading the way and us in the back. The loss of the money was quite a blow to me. Once again I had to be reminded that money isn't just a means of payment, but also a measure of freedom. I would probably never need yen again in my life if we left Japan tomorrow, but based on my own bitter experience, I knew that in life anything can happen. And the more money you have, the more options become available. A new thing. Finally, Kagome stopped by one of the many restaurants. So that's where you live. Anything wrong with that? No, everything's fine. Kagome stared at me intently for a couple of seconds, then scoffed, opened the door, and turned on the light. Ooh, you'll sleep in the back room. She paused, clearly thinking of something. You'll need a futon. I'll give you one. Don't make noise. You'll wake up at 5 o'clock. The restaurant opens early. Any questions? I felt like a soldier at a briefing. Thank you. Himitsu tried to bow, but I stopped her. All right, then. Ah! The futon turned out to be old, smelling of dust and mold, but seemingly clean. And of course we had one futon for the two of us. Not that I was embarrassed to sleep together with Himitsu. Rather, I was concerned about her reaction. However, Himitsu was the first to get under the blanket. It was dark in the back room, and only faint moonlight reaching us through the tiny window under the ceiling. The last night of September turned out to be exceptionally cold. We were breathing out the clouds of steam, and somewhere nearby, under the numerous boxes, mice were squealing pitifully. Nico-kun, hug me! I held Himitsu close. She was warm and smelled nice. I wondered how conscious her decision to run away with me had been. Maybe it was just a childish rebellion, a need to go against what adults want, no matter what. Hey, Mafia babe! How you doing? Good to see you today. Are you ready for more of this game? 'Cause that's what we're doing. In that case, for an 18-year-old, a couple of days out of home, far from the warm bed and full fridge, are usually enough to reevaluate their views of the concept of independence. Well, our situation wasn't exactly ordinary. Suddenly, I felt Himitsu's hand caress my cheek, stopping at my neck going lower. What was Irina talking about? What did you do with her this morning? Let's just say we had a round of aggressive negotiations. Is that so? She firmly pinched my nipple. What? Ouch! I'm doing good. I'm ready for another week of this game. We're gonna beat it, Mafia babe. We're gonna beat it. We will. I swears, or at least Himitsu's timeline. Iwamura-senpai told us to be quiet. Don't start then. I think you've already good to go without me. Indeed, I was extremely aroused, and it wasn't hard to guess how the whole thing was going to end. The end. Welcome to October. Time to prepare for Halloween. This is Halloween. I rolled to the side, reached out, and didn't find Himitsu. The back room was still half dark, but it was easy to tell the sun was rising outside. I got up with some effort, shivered at the cold, and walked to the kitchen. There, everyone was prepping for her opening. The kitchen hands were running back and forth, the water in the pots were boiling, and I could hear the joyful clinking of lids, and the rhythmic sound of knives hitting the boards, and the entire room drowned in appetizing aromas. Nico-kun! Himitsu was standing at the stove with a pan in her hands. What time is it? 6 o'clock in the morning. I'll let you sleep longer. What are you doing? I decided to help Kagome-san. After all, we're indebted to her. Kagome-san? Here goes. I didn't even know what annoyed me more. The fact that she was addressing Kagome so casually, or that Iwamura had put Himitsu at work so early in the morning. Yeah, alright, fine. I yawned and stretched my fresh stubble. Oh yeah, Mafia babe, we're on the run now. We're, leaving to go back to Russia. Will it work, or will we die? We'll see. Oh, hi. Get out of the way! Kagome dexterously slipped under my arm. And what would you have me do? Don't know, just sit and wait. Himitsu only smiled apologetically. I walked into the dining hall, where a lonely old man sitting behind a table caught my attention. Hey, Zero, would you like to play Love, Money, and Rock and Roll? 'Cause you can, if you do !play. It might not work, though, but whatever. Yeah, we're on our way. Good morning. Huh? He raised his head and looked around with half-blind eyes, unable to see me. Good morning. I repeated in a louder voice. Good morning. You must be Kagome-chan's friend? Something like that. Must have been her grandfather. He seemed to be too old to be her father. Without asking for permission, I sat opposite to him. Years taking their toll. He smiled sadly, and there was much more mental clarity in his eyes than I was expecting. My wife and I used to run this restaurant together, and now I can't even see what's happening right now under my nose. Thank you for taking care of Kagome-chan, he said in an overly polite manner, and tilted his head forward. No need. Seriously, what kind of care was he talking about? We're grateful for letting us stay the night. She'd never been good with people. As her mother's character, you'd never have trouble finding someone as stubborn as she was. Kagome's grandfather continued, either not hearing or just ignoring me like old people do. What's the room code? It's LMRNR. Yep, that's it. Although had Shinji not met her, Kagome-chan wouldn't have been born. Whatever happens, happens for the best, I guess. I just didn't know how to reply. A lot of sorrow in you, I see. A lot of thoughts, doubts, and hesitation. Unexpressed desires and unfulfilled ambitions. What was he? Master Yoda? Master Yoder? I was thinking that too. Those truly feel are those with freedom in their hearts, not those weighed down by their connection to the mundane. Granddad, enough! Leave him alone. They won't be here long. Kagome apparently heard our conversation as she passed by. Sorry, sometimes he gets carried away. No worries. You're just a set of fresh ears for him to yap into. Truly wise is the one who listens much, not the one who much talks, Kagome-chan. Then you definitely aren't Confucius. She smirked and returned to the kitchen. There's no respect for elders anymore. He lamented while I quickly stood up and bowed slowly. I should go. You got an interesting grandfather, and where's your dad? Kagome was skillfully chopping cabbage. Why do you want to know? Christ, I just asked. After the incident with Kobayashi Corporation, it's better for him to not show up here for a while. True enough, thanks again for letting us stay. It's fine. Besides, your girlfriend has been a great help. She should be a cook. Definitely. Himitsu was looking at us confused. Weren't suspicious of her anymore? Maybe. She put the knife away and took a moment to think. To be honest, I don't want anyone else to suffer from this damn corporation. And if I can help somehow. Like most unsociable and secure people, Kagome seemed to need a while to get to know a person, and only then could she communicate with them normally. I just sighed in response and threw a piece of pickled plum in my mouth. I choked to death. The breakfast the girls made was truly fit for a king. That's probably how they served a buffet in 5-star hotels. Dishes for all tastes, a huge choice of drinks, fresh fruits, and sweets. I wondered how Kagome managed to stay so slim facing a temptation like this on a daily basis. I was eating so much that I just finished fasting for a month. Nico-kun! Himitsu put some vegetable salad on my plate. I cooked this! Those vegetables tasted like vegetables. I ate some out of respect for her and got back to the pork patty. Haven't eaten a tastier one in my life. Did you also make this one too? No, and it's unhealthy to eat so much red meat. If the mind is healthy, so is the body. And I can see the young man has no problems with his appetite. Yes, but it's a restaurant after all. We always cook more than we need. But that's not what I'm worried about. Mitsu threw her arms in the air. What are you worried about? Fine, eat your meat then. She realized that nobody at the table shared her worries regarding my diet and gave up. When we were done with breakfast, I called Himitsu over for a talk. We need to clean the dishes. They can do that by themselves. You didn't volunteer to be their dishwasher. I got tired of all this, so I grabbed her by the hand and took her outside. Nico-kun! So, by now the sun was high in the sky and had warmed the waking trade district with its rays. We couldn't hear the shouts from the seaport, ship horns, and noises of the loading cranes. Sailors always start their days earlier than other people. A cool breeze was blowing from the ocean. It was refreshing and helped me gather my thoughts. The summer sun shines too brightly. Its blinding scorches the earth and even penetrates the rare oasis of shadow. You dissolve in the intensity of white light and lose yourself. In winter, snow glistens in the sun, covering everything in a shining carpet. In spring, it gets warm too early in Japan, so then only in autumn can you see the world for how it really is, not drowned in the light of our star. Nico-kun! I just got lost in thought. Are you sure you want to go back home alone? To be honest, I thought that her plan was correct. Moreover, it was the only possible way forward. But that didn't make me any less worried. Are you sure this Irina can be trusted? No, I'm not, but what else can we do? Hiding from the Japanese government in Japan is like looking for the safest corner in a lion's cage. Himitsu smiled and took me by the hand. Dad isn't going to guard the house. And what if his people are there? I've been living there my entire life, you know. I know how to enter and leave without being noticed. All right. It's not like I was afraid to entrust her with such an important task, right? All right, I'll wait for you here. For luck! Himitsu wrapped her arms around my neck and kissed me tightly. Ah! The first visitors coming to the Gifts of the Sea for breakfast looked warily at the two teenagers kissing right at its doorstep. Amongst all the things I hated in my life, stupidity and waiting stood out. The stupidity thing is self-explanatory, but being unaware of a situation and unable to influence events important to you is also unbearable. Himitsu had left just an hour ago, but to me it seemed to have already been an eternity. I was walking back and forth like a guard dog watching the restaurant. You'll scare all my customers off like that. I know, isn't that sweet? She gave me a kiss. Kagome tried to shoo me inside a few times, but I just couldn't stay in one place. Finally, 2 hours later, Himitsu returned. She didn't look worried or frightened. Well, how'd it go? All good? Yes, everything's fine. She handed me a moderately thick folder filled with documents. Has anybody noticed you? Your father? No, Nico-kun, everything's fine. It seemed that there weren't even anyone home. Even then, it had been suspiciously easy. Decided to not share my worries with her, but felt a strain I couldn't explain, as if I were about to perform in a room full of people for the first time. Let's see what's in there. We sat behind the table in the corner. I placed the documents on it, and Himitsu brought a teapot and 2 cups from the kitchen. I see you're all used to this place. Kagome-san allowed it. I'm just joking. The folder contained files with information on various people, the sort you'd see in detective shows, a photo in the upper corner, not all the files had it, a short biography, and a brief description of their work with the project. Catherine's mother was there too. Cheryl Winters, an American diplomat and an employee of the Department of Cultural Connections between Japan and the U.S. Cultural connections? Yeah, right. I snickered under my breath and Himitsu looked at me puzzled. Studied at, married in, now that was interesting. Oversees U.S. presence in the project, use of U.S. technologies and resource, directly subordinated to the CIA. The CIA! So Mrs. Winters wasn't the one to trifle with. I also found a file on Kagome's father, but for some reason I didn't want to read about him, probably out of respect or gratitude for Kagome. I turned the page and came across something I didn't want to see at all. A photo of my father. He was looking at the camera and smiling, young and full of energy. The photo was seemingly taken when he arrived in Japan. A black and white face frozen in the past, the face of a person who had no idea he had only 10 years left to live. Let me! Himitsu took the folder from me and started reading. An engineer, specialization, rocket science, got a degree at, immigrated to Japan in 1976, who was working in the Department of Prospective Projects of Kobayashi Corporation, suspectedly a Soviet spy. Despite the fact that during the period of employment in the USSR, our agents were working on him for a long period of time, counterintelligence had a sufficient evidential basis to assume Anokin had been working for the Soviet Secret Service. Recruitment and his following immigration had been planned by the Department of Foreign Intelligence of the USSR's KGB. Oh, man. So my father was a spy too? I found that hard to believe. On the one hand, I could clearly imagine my father in the role, but what I couldn't accept was the fact that he'd been putting our entire family in danger for so many years. In the end, he died and took my mom with him. Hey, Geek and Rat! How you doing today? It's good to see ya. Welcome to more of this game. How's life treating ya? Nico-kun! Go on. Anokin and his family have been put under surveillance. Agent responsible, Ito. Himitsu went silent. It's alright. I understand. I just can't get used to it. Think of it as reading a fairy tale. Remember like we did as kids? The stories I read it to you? Barely. Well, excuse me, princess. Himitsu took a sip of tea and continued. Although no definite proof he had been found in, Anokin's communications with Soviet intelligence maintained surveillance as recommended, and the date below, February 2nd, 1986. So then, a few months before my parents' deaths, the Japanese had no plans to eliminate them. Perhaps Ito was telling the truth when he swore he had nothing to do with that accident. Nico-kun! Alright, I'll go from here. I also found a file on Ichinose in the folder, but it didn't contain anything interesting. White and relatively new sheets were mixed with old yellow pages with different colored stickers on them. Ito was extremely meticulous and consistent. There was as much information collected on each person as possibly could be. There was even a separate page dedicated to me. Unfortunately, it was half empty. I smirked. What an interesting thing to realize. My whole life amounted to a couple of paragraphs attached to my father's detailed biography. You got 2 cups of coffee? Ooh, nice. Is the other one for someone special, or is it for you? As well? You need 2 cups to perk up. Although I was only 18. Alright. I closed the folder and tied the string tightly around it. Time to call my compatriots. I'm going with you! No way. Mitsu opened her eyes wide and put on an expression of an offended child. I trusted you with an important mission, now I need you to trust me. Now you want coffee too? Everyone wants coffee. Except Ultima. Ultima don't drink coffees. Because he's a big baby. Although, of course, my trust was based solely on intuition. Just you. I gotcha. Why hadn't the Russians intercepted Himitsu when she was walking back with the documents? I'd just been hoping they wouldn't dare attack the daughter of a prominent Japanese intelligence agent, and that turned out to be the case. However, there was no need for Himitsu to know about these thoughts of mine. Fine! She pounded but relented. I walked some distance away from the restaurant, although that barely made any sense, and called the Russians from a telephone box. The same male voice replied, "Hello. I have the documents." "Same place as yesterday." In reality, I only took a few pages from my father's file, as proof we really did have the documents. Besides, I had a few questions for Irina concerning the contents. I sat behind the table with the same ramen shop and ordered soba. I think I read this already. Thin Japanese noodle made from buckwheat. I wasn't hungry at all. Irina appeared about half an hour. Was Himitsu followed? Asked immediately, skipping all the unnecessary greetings. She looked at me thoughtfully for some time, then replied in as serious a tone. "You haven't noticed anyone. Where are the documents?" This will do for an example. I pushed the paper to her. The young woman spent a long time reading it, like it was written in an unfamiliar language. Sometimes Irina would push a loose strand of hair away. Looking at the simple gesture, you could be forgiven for thinking it was just a normal Russian girl sitting across from you, a beauty who posed no danger whatsoever. But then she turned over the sheet to be sure that she didn't miss anything and raised her eyes to me, full of cold suspicion. Interesting. Even more interesting is that you brought exactly this with you. Not that your feelings have anything to do with our business, of course. Is what's written there true? She squinted and leaned on the table. The truth is what the majority believes. When you do this for long enough, you begin to understand that really is the case. So history's written by the victors. That's the way you want to put it. Still, I think I deserve some answers. Do you want to know where your father really was? Whether your father really was a Soviet spy sent to Japan with the goal of infiltrating Kobayashi Corporation? Whether he had to hand over the secret Soviet research to the Japanese in order to gain their trust? And whether we were risking the Soviet rocket program for a vague chance at knowing our enemy's plans? Well, I wasn't thinking about it in that much detail. I think you've already answered your own question. So Irina was implying that for the KGB, the game wasn't worth the candle. I know Ito, and it's hard for me to believe that in so many years, he never realized he was spying on the wrong person. I repeat, the truth is what you want to believe. Ito really wanted to believe that your father was a spy. But I still couldn't wrap my mind around the idea that a professional like Ito can make that kind of mistake. Tell me honestly, if it was the truth, would you have told me? Irina pushed her eyebrows together and puckered her lips as if someone had put frozen cranberries in her ramen. What? I'll protect my country. If your father had been dangerous, he would pose a threat to it. There was another reason to fear the KGB. It was likely that they had been the ones to organize the car accident. Her answer doesn't inspire confidence. I didn't come here to prove anything to you. You have the information and we can arrange what you need. And how will we do it? Tomorrow at 6 in the morning, a car will come to the restaurant where you're hiding and pick you up. You will receive further instruction then. Understood. Well, if that's understood. She smirked, stood up, and walked away without saying goodbye. There was still something wrong about this whole story. Very wrong. Those secret documents left in plain view, just come and grab them. Ito, who for 10 years, so to say, waging the wrong war. Chekists who miss Himitsu, and an opportunity to get the documents they needed without any hassle. My life was becoming a surreal comedy of errors. I walked along the waterfront for a few hours, trying to gather my thoughts. Buddhist philosophy insists on not worrying about the things you can't change, but for me, it had always been unbearable to wait for an event I couldn't influence, and whose outcome I wasn't sure of. Just like a prisoner before his execution. Somewhere deep inside he still believes his appeal might be approved, even though his mind tells him there's no chance. There's a person here. I returned to the restaurant almost at dinner time. Himitsu immediately pounced on me. Nico-kun, where have you been? I was worried. All right, sorry. It was very typical for me to get lost in my own thoughts and forget about others. You're doing it again? No, I just needed to think. You could think here. She pouted and walked to the kitchen. Himitsu-chan came after her. Well, at least someone wasn't wasting time. I mumbled and walked after her. The evening was passing slowly. I told Himitsu about the meeting with Irina, but decided not to share my suspicions. The restaurant was lively in living its normal life. Guests were coming and going, eating and drinking, having fun, and laughing. The cooks were working busily, pushing each other to work faster. Tiny nimble waitresses were running around, flashing a professional smile to every visitor. Himitsu found a job for herself and was helping the cooks, and I could only observe the cohesive work of the gifts of the sea staff. If someone resembled one huge organism, a leviathan processing its visitors, they entered here hungry and ill-tempered, then left full and happy. But the seemingly simple process of cooking dishes and serving guests, in fact, required a lot of diligence and organization. I sighed again and returned to my own problems. Now it was completely obvious I couldn't leave the documents to Kioske. Unlike Himitsu, his life had no value for the Russians, so I needed to find another person that wouldn't raise any suspicions. In other words, a stranger, which was doubtly difficult given that even my acquaintances could be counted on one hand. Finally, it was the time to close the restaurant. Kagome kindly saw off the late drinkers and, wiping sweat from her forehead, said, "The more they drink, the more profitable it is for us, surely, but honestly." I just smirked and looked at the empty lounge. Without visitors, it looked dirty and even abandoned. You need help with cleaning? I don't even know. You might do more harm than good. Oh, stop it. What can I do? Set the whole place on fire? Fine then, Assistant-kun. She smiled and smirked and threw a rag at me. Never thought cleaning could be so tiresome. I felt exhausted as if I played 90 minutes of football, although it took just about as long. We finished past midnight. Well, damn. What did you expect? Kagome was grinning, clearly proud of herself. Fine, you win. Shall I give you a medal? Nico-kun, stop it! Okay, I'm done. I responded, disappointed. That argument, although it wasn't clear who was arguing and with whom, was lost. Well, we should arrange a proper farewell dinner. Gifts of the sea never forget good deeds. Kagome's grandfather appeared out of the blue as if he'd been hiding somewhere the whole day. Granddad, enough. We're tired. Come on, Kagome-chan. Let the young ones try real Japanese delicacies for the last time. The recipes passed down from generation to generation in the Akira family. We would love to, but we'd be very happy to. Sunshine, come on, I whispered, protesting. I can't refuse, it would be impolite. Oh. However, the old man wasn't lying. Sashimi, sushi, Kobe beef, salted watermelon, and a bottle of sake. Japanese delicacy consisting of fresh raw fish, or meat sliced into thin pieces and often eaten with soy sauce. After a couple of glasses, the old man's cheeks turned pink, and he started telling stories about his youth. Stories that had nothing outstanding about them, identical to the stories every Japanese old man of his age has. Soon he fell asleep, crossing his arms over his chest and lowered his head. Old people can sleep in any position, place, or situation. I poured more sake in my glass and immediately caught Himitsu staring daggers at me. Can't let the good stuff go to waste, right? Wonderful! She grabbed her own glass, previously barely touched, and emptied it in a single go. Wasn't sure if Himitsu had tried sake before. Well, how is it? It's disgusting! How do you even drink that? Kagome, who had been mostly silent, suddenly laughed happily. You two really suit each other. Why's that? Nico-kun! I mean, what made you say so? I can just tell. What's our future going to be, though? Didn't you say you arranged everything? I arranged leaving Japan, but I still don't know what to do when we get to the USSR. And well, what's the problem? The problem is that as soon as we walk off the plane, they'll demand these documents. I need to leave them in Japan, but I don't know who to trust them with. Kagome gave it some thought and said slowly, I can help. You've already helped enough. Besides, it's dangerous. The KGB needs these documents, and the Japanese will want them back. After they let my father go, I don't think I'm in danger. Why is that? Because there are reasons I don't want to talk about. I quickly thought of my other options, but it turned out I simply had none. I can't ask you this. I know. She smiled, and in an instant I heard Himitsu's drunk shout, Nico-kun, of course we owe a lot to Kagome-san, but behave yourself. How could she get so drunk from a single glass of sake? God, I felt like I was reading a shuru manga. Alright, think we better go to sleep, I told Kagome. Tried to be quieter this time. It was hard to hide my embarrassment. Blame her. Dragged Himitsu to the back room, where I put her on the futon, and she immediately fell asleep. It is now day 2 of October. Drinking with decency is an art. In this context, with decency doesn't always mean moderately. In Himitsu's case, drinking with decency meant not drinking at all. I opened my puffy eyes and rolled over with great effort. The sun was coming up, the clock read 5:45. We had to get up. I shook Himitsu by the shoulder, but she just kept sleeping peacefully. "Wake up," I said loudly in her ear. Himitsu opened her eyes and stared at me confused. "Time to go." "What? Where?" "Time to get out of this country." "Get out? Don't you remember what happened yesterday?" "Yesterday, I think Kagome-san's grandfather arranged a farewell dinner for us." Blessed is she who knows no hangover. A fine old bender, I'd say. Her eyes widened. I sighed heavily and stumbled to my feet. 10 minutes later, we had already packed our few belongings and were saying goodbye to Kagome. Again, with a clear mind now, are you sure? If it'll somehow hurt Kobayashi Corporation, you can count on me. At the very least, they won't be happy. I looked around the restaurant, but nobody was paying attention to us. The documents are under the futon. Got it. When you arrive in the USR, just call here and ask for Iwamura-san. But your phone might be tapped. Besides, an international call would immediately raise suspicion. Yeah, I guess. Kagome thought a moment. Then I'll just ask Kyosuke to drop by your place. The fat guy? A man with a big heart. I smirked and gave her my mind. Kagome was embarrassed at first, but shook it nonetheless. Himitsu bowed deeply. "Thank you for everything, and thank your grandfather on our behalf." "Sure, except after yesterday he'll be sleeping until noon." We walked outside. I called Kyosuke from the nearest telephone box and gave him detailed instructions. What, when, and where. Of course, there was a chance they were tapping his phone as well, but over our years of friendship we came up with all sorts of words and phrases whose real meaning was known only to us. With that, our preparations were complete. I sat on the short stone barrier that separated the pavement from water. This doesn't seem very safe, especially next to a restaurant where they sell alcohol. Did I really get drunk yesterday? Himitsu stood next to me, twisting her hands in anguished realization. A little, maybe. Still, there was something wrong with this plan. Or maybe the whole plan was rubbish. Irina had agreed to my conditions too easily. Himitsu was able to steal those documents too easily. Kagome was too confident in that the documents would be safe with her. Why had I even agreed to all that? Was I just carried by the flow? Too tired to think for myself? There were too many variables, and I couldn't put them together into a single understandable system. "Niku-kun!" Mitsu took me by the hand, but said nothing else. What else was there to say? We could only wait. Finally, a car appeared in the distance, slowly driving in our direction. I automatically stood up and walked toward it. Who else could be here at such an early hour? Mitsu was holding my hand tightly and walking next to me. When it was just 20 meters until it reached us, another black sedan leapt out of the alley, tires screeching. A man holding a machine gun leaned out of the window and opened fire on the first car. The gunfire sounded like someone trying to play a simple tune with spoons. Bullets pierced the windows, glass rained down in a fine mist. Almost immediately, the first car returned fire. The whole scene took no more than a couple seconds, but I froze, holding Himitsu's hand tightly, unable to do away with the feeling that I was the odd element out in this picture. As if I just accidentally found myself in the set of an action movie and I was afraid to leave so as to not disturb the actors. Yeah, this is not good. A moment later, both cars had become sieves and the gunfire had fallen quiet. Somewhere on the edge of my conscious self, I started to hear a voice, a deep bass, as if someone turned on an equalizer to low frequencies. "Niku-kun!" The louder and cleaner. "Niku-kun!" I came to my senses and broke into a run, dragging Himitsu along. I didn't know if anybody was left alive after all that shooting, but if there were, they'd be coming after us. "Hey, Angel Love! What's up? How you doing today?" "Angel Love, you're just in time. We're getting shot at. Isn't that awesome? Woo!" We were rushing past opening stores, past fish sellers, slipped into alleys and side streets. Catching surprised looks, we didn't drop our speed, and the two cars now resembling Swiss cheese were left far behind. Finally, I stopped to catch my breath. Mitsu was covered in sweat, her hair disheveled and stuck to her flushed face. What was that, Niku-kun? In any case, my suspicions had not been unfounded. Everything couldn't go that smoothly. I don't know. Apparently the Russians got attacked or they attacked someone. So what are we going to do now? You can't rely on them anymore. That money would have been so useful now. That escalated mighty fast. I know, right? You're good? Awesome. I'm glad you're good. You're doing better than our two characters here. That's for sure. We need to get out of the city, then we'll see. So I had some change in my wallet, enough to buy 2 tickets out of Tokyo. Then we would act according to circumstances. Himitsu was standing still and coming to her senses. One thing was clear, we were being hunted. It didn't even matter by who. Most importantly, they wouldn't leave us alone, and we had no one else to count on. Perhaps Irina had made a mistake. Or maybe it was something else. These questions would only be of interest to conspiracy theorists. I felt like an object, a mere addition to the paper left at the gifts of the sea. That folder was valuable in and of itself. People were ready to kill and die for it, while our lives were expendable. Think again, did you notice anything unusual yesterday? At home or on your way back? Try to remember everything. Maybe you saw someone suspicious. Nico-kun, I don't know, I'm scared. I hugged Himitsu and held her close, feeling her whole body tremble. My main task now was to protect her, not to get the truth of what had happened. It seemed to be quiet, no traces of that slaughter. But someone definitely needed us alive. We could simply give those damn documents away. Suddenly, I noticed suspicious-looking men in black suits in the distance. 6 a.m. on a Friday in this district, and clothes fit more of a business meeting that didn't make for a good combination. Luckily, they were far enough, and it was unlikely they'd notice us behind the vending machine, blocking their line of sight. We have to go, I said quietly. But where, Nico-kun? Himitsu seemed completely desperate. For starters, forward. I had no time to persuade her, so I just had to drag Himitsu along by force. Few suspicious guys, easily identifiable as Japanese agents, were hanging around the train station, barely even trying to hide. I had been carefully backed into a corner, our every escape route systematically cut off. You might wonder, what's easier than hiding in a massive city? Not when several intelligence agencies are hunting you. The Japanese were guarding the way ahead, while the Russians most likely were on our heels. And I was no longer so confident about their intentions. On one side were cut off by the sea, while the other was blocked by dense rows of short houses crowding an army of dwarves like at the foothill of Erebor. I could already tell this was the end, but didn't want to scare Himitsu even more. The station was getting more crowded, and it was a good opportunity to disappear in the crowd, but at the same time it would be harder to notice our pursuers. Besides, for me, with my height, it was nearly impossible to not stand out in a group of short Japanese peoples. I decided that we'd better avoid open spaces. We went off the street leading us to the station and found ourselves in a straight, narrow alley that was going in the same direction for a good 100 meters. If enemies were to appear on the other end, we'd have nowhere to run. I looked back. The black suits were approaching. Nico-kun! Himitsu looked detached. Apparently she had run out of energy to worry and partially come to terms with what might happen. Will they kill us? No. Then what will they do? I couldn't find the right words to respond, and it made no sense to keep repeating that everything would be alright. We walked quickly forward and soon successfully reached the end of the alley. Then came a strong punch to my gut. I doubled over, saw sparks before my eyes, lost my balance, and the whole world grew dark for a moment. The next second, I was already being dragged somewhere. I found myself on the back seat of a car where Himitsu's cry made me come to my senses. Uh-oh. Nico-kun! A huge man was holding her tightly by the arms. Help! Murder! I shouted instinctively, but they paid no attention. They were acting quickly and coherently. Professionals slipped through my mind. While I was trying to break free, my brain was feverishly analyzing the situation. Himitsu was being dragged away from the car. Nico-kun! She shouted for the last time before somebody put a handkerchief on her face. With chloroform, probably. Next second, she went limp in the hands of the goons holding her. I made one more attempt to break free, but somebody immediately handcuffed me. What are you doing, bastards? We had a deal. I wasn't silenced as painlessly as Himitsu, with a hard hit to the back of my head. And already fainting, I realized that the few words I heard at that moment were not in Russian. We heard the words, April Fools, joking. Oh, we're on the third day. That's how my story ended. Are the words a writer would have put at the end of a novel about the life of Nikolai Anokin. Indeed, in the real world, unlike in books, most stories don't have a happy ending. The blind sequence of accidents knows no compassion, love, or sympathy. The death of one human, thousands or millions on the scale of even our backwater planet, is just a matter of chance. It's no more significant than winning the lottery. I made my bet, and I lost. I trusted my compatriots and was deceived by them. Cold sweat burned my back. In a total darkness, I was numbed my senses of reality. Felt like I had already died, and only an intense headache proved me wrong. It was hard to say how many hours I spent unconscious. The room where I was kept resembled a closet more than anything, with no windows and a single metal door that let no light through. "Hey!" I wheezed, to which my entire body responded with pain. "Himitsu!" We had been separated, and I was left alive. So they still needed me for something. Memories began to return, each a burst of acute pain in the back of my head. It seemed that after they had stunned me, that one of them said something. But what exactly? I didn't remember the face of the attacker. He may very well have been wearing a mask. There was the blow, and then the curtains dropped and darkness came. Like in a theater. I was going through that moment again and again in my head. The blow and the words was in the unfamiliar language. The blow and drive, drive, drive in English. Then the door opened and the entire room was drowned in bright light. It reached into every corner and seemed to be filling me from inside. I squeezed my eyes so hard they hurt, but there was no escaping it. Somebody grabbed me by the arm and pulled me back on my feet with one strong jerk, and I was led through long, narrow corridors. Oh boy. Finally, I was sat on a chair uncuffed, and heard the sound of a door closing behind my back. I wasn't alone in the space that resembled the interrogation room of a police station. My eyes were still blinded by white light, but it was as if I could feel the presence of someone in the corner, hidden in shadow with my skin. Nikolai. Oh, it's Catherine. Catherine's mom. Soon Catherine's mother herself appeared in the light. It is a pity to meet in these circumstances. She sat behind the table across from me. "Himitsu!" My voice sounded hoarse and strained, as if it didn't belong to me. "What have you done to her?" "She's safe for now. What will happen next depends entirely on you." "What about the Russians? I thought we got captured by them." If we had been late by a minute, that would have been the case. She pulled a pack of cigarettes out of her pocket and shook it thoughtfully, as if choosing which to take. This game's name is very misleading. Yeah, a little bit. Just a little bit. Perhaps if we had, you would have already been in Moscow instead of having this conversation. Tough luck. What do you need from me? I already told you I don't have any documents. The reality of the situation started to get through to me more and more clearly, and it came with anger, and with it came anger. I was willing to believe that last time, but Ito's daughter had fixed that unfortunate omission. What? You still don't see the entire picture. She laughed and finally lit the cigarette. Ito was just waiting for her to return, and by lucky coincidence, she took the documents the Russians needed. They don't possess any particular value or threat to us or the Japanese, but they do provide an opportunity to accuse the USSR of industrial espionage. Their parents, unfortunately, left this world too early to play that role. How dare you! I jumped up from the chair, but the look she gave me quickly realized it wasn't even worth trying. So the documents are in the KGB's hands. Now we only need to capture the traitor who finished the job his parents couldn't. Finally, all the pieces of the puzzle fit together. This was their plan from the very beginning. From the very beginning, they've been pushing me to cooperate with the KGB, setting everything up to leave me no choice but to agree to Irina's terms. There was only one piece that was still out of place. If everything is as you say, what was all that shooting about? A bit too much noise for a secret operation. Apparently Cheryl Winters wasn't overjoyed by the question. The Russians decided to eliminate the witnesses at the last moment, so they were the ones who started shooting. Yes, how very convenient. Although I couldn't rule out the possibility that it was the truth. Alright, so what's next? Sounds like you need me alive for the show trial. The son of Russian spies following in his dead parents' footsteps. I can already imagine the headlines. I only had one thought in my head. I had to protect Himitsu at any cost. Let's say I do everything you want me to. You aren't in a position to make demands. You won't make me talk by force either. Depends on the cost of your silence. For instance, is your girlfriend's life a high enough price? I only grit my teeth. They really did hold all the aces. Do everything like you're supposed to, then she'll live. Try to play your own tune and both of you will be feeding the fish in Tokyo Bay. How's that for a straight talk? Where are my guarantees? Oh, sorry, I forgot them at home. She said in a tone that immediately made it clear where Catherine got her sarcasm. Should I arrange for an official ceremony to deliver them to you? Nikolai, you seem to be misunderstanding things again. I am not here to bargain with you. I am explaining how things are going to be. She leaned over the table and coldly looked at me in the eyes. Wanted to ask about Kagome too, but there was a chance she had nothing to do with it at all, and I would just pointlessly expose her to danger. So all this time, Ito, the Japanese are good at one thing. They're obedient, and if they're in the right place, don't ask questions. Has he really been using his daughter in cold blood? How do you know if his daughter hasn't been following his instructions? She squinted slyly and reminded me of Catherine again. If you're going to lie, at least make your lies believable. She smirked and leaned back in the chair. It's good to have a person you can trust so blindly. No way. She wasn't going to make me doubt Himitsu. I should have known that the Japanese hadn't engineered all this themselves. The only thing we need from you now is your cooperation. You'll get 10 years and maybe an early parole, and then we'll discuss your life from there on. This is your way of bribing me? Why so rude? Stimulating you is how I'd put it, preparing a place for you to come back to. On the one hand, the offer wasn't as bad as you might think. They'd leave Himitsu in peace, and we were even offering some possible help in the future. Of course, I had no reason to trust them, but Catherine's mother was right about one thing. I wasn't in a position to bargain. So what do you say? The temptation to accept her offer was too great, but there was still something stopping me. A hunch, you say? Mrs. Winters clearly wasn't telling the entire story. Otherwise, why bother with me at all? That meant I had no choice, at least on paper, and I had to make it very carefully. Okay. Be right back, guys. I am going to look up the little guide that I had, because I don't want to make the wrong choice here. Okay, give me a second. I'm going to... I'm going to refuse. Nah. I'll take my chances. At the very least, I need some kind of guarantee. Cheryl Winters looked annoyed. You're making an enormous mistake, Nikolai. Remember that it's not just your fate that depends on you. I understand, but I have no reason to believe you. At least let me see Himitsu first, and then we'll get back to this conversation. Alright, sorry, let me see if I did it right. Fuse. Okay. And agree. And here. Gotta do this. Okay. Let's go. I was hoping you were smarter than this. She scoffed contemptuously, stood up, and walked out of the room, locking the door behind her. Catherine's mother was one of those women whose appearances alone inspires respect, and even a certain awe. The silence left in her wake rang accusingly, as if scolding me for making the wrong choice. It felt like I had done something wrong, as if I had been pulled out of the normal order of things. Nobody knew about my choice yet. Nobody was condemning me for it, but I had already sentenced myself. Really wanted to eat and drink something. Mrs. Winters had only left 10 minutes ago, but I already couldn't keep still, pacing around the tiny room. Did I do the right thing? Was Himitsu safe now? The door squeaked quietly and opened almost without a sound. Finally! I said pretty loudly and stood against the entrance. However, it wasn't Catherine's mother standing in the doorway. It was... Ito! Nikolai, we don't have time. I couldn't say anything, so I just stood there staring at the face of my enemy. He looked extremely anxious, covered in sweat, his eyes gleaming feverishly. Later. I'll explain everything later. Right now we need to get you out of here before she comes back. He stepped toward me, but I moved back instinctually. Why do you refuse her offer? Or why did you? How did he know that? What was he doing here? Do you have a better one? I finally managed to squeeze out the words. I'm trying to help you, you idiot. What about helping Himitsu? She's fine. She's already in a safe place. Everything turned upside down again. Mrs. Winters had just told me Ito had been following their orders all along, and now he seemed to be going against her. Hurry up. Where to? I'll get you out of the building. Change your clothes. He took a blue jacket like the ones mailmen wear and a cap of the bag he was holding. You can think later. Do you think it's safer here? Of course he didn't want to remain in the hands of the CIA. How could I trust a man who had betrayed his own daughter? Everything was happening too quickly. I didn't have time to figure out what consequences my actions might have. Maybe he'd come to his senses and decide to help me. Maybe it was another of Catherine's mother's tricks. Or maybe everything was much more complicated than that. Why should I trust you? At least there's logic to Mrs. Winter's words. You know too much. Once you do what they need you to, they'll just get rid of you. It can only help you now. Money later and it will be too late. What the hell? I sighed and powerlessly dropped to the chair, rubbing my eyes in the vain hope it was all a mirage. The picture that looked like one of Borch's remained. Only choice was to blindly trust one of them. Ita, who had already tricked me, or Cheryl Winters, who yesterday wasn't part of the equation and today had become its most crucial factor. Nikolai, Himitsu is waiting for you. The words were either a cheap trick or the truth, and my entire being wanted to believe that Ita wasn't lying. The lesser evil, huh? At least there was a chance he was guided by his love for Himitsu. While Catherine's mother wasn't risking anything in this situation, she had a good shot at accusing the Soviets of espionage, but if it didn't work out, it wouldn't be a setback. That's why the Americans only needed me alive only so long as I was cooperating. If I was cooperating, fine, lead the way. I quickly changed and followed him. Walking down the dark corridors, we entered a garage, not meeting a single soul on our way. It was a huge underground parking lot. Most likely we were in the basement floor of a skyscraper. Kobayashi Corporation? Ito led me to a normal-looking gray car and gestured toward the back seat. I took a step forward and froze. A sense of danger pierced my entire being. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, guys. The sound of metal came from behind me, and Ito's quiet voice said, as if apologizing, "Sorry, Nikolai, but this is the only way I can ensure Himitsu's safety. I had never really thought about his feelings or motives. After all, he knew much more than I did. Ito might have seemed cruel and emotionless to me, but could it be that his true motivations was his daughter's safety? After all, love isn't all there is to life, and looking at it objectively, I wasn't the best match for her. A person dragged into the conflict between the KGB and the CIA. That's not very nice. I know, right? What if someone was pointing a gun to your head? You wouldn't like it either. Ugh, Ito, you're a jerkface. A stranger in an alien country, an orphan without a dime. What would I have done if I were Ito? Besides, he could have gotten rid of me long ago, quietly and without consequences. He would have told Himitsu that I had been kidnapped by Soviet spies, or the Americans or Martians. What difference would it make? She would have to believe it, or at least accept it. Maybe in a different life she could have persuaded her father that her love for me was more important than anything else. But in this one, I got what I deserved. Oh, bang. That hurt. The last moment of my life dragged on too long. The dull sound of a gunshot, the light push against the back of my head, and my entire life flashed before my eyes. And in almost every memory I saw Himitsu, happy, smiling, sad, crying, passionate, upset, disappointed, loving, and beloved. This doesn't feel right. Leaving friend zone. Himitsu's bad ending number 2. We did it, guys! We beat the game! Ugh, that was such a good ending. I'm dead. Isn't that an amazing ending, guys? I love it. Yeah, we did it! We did it! I'm dead! Woo! Huzzah, I know! Let's celebrate, guys! Woo! Actually, I don't like that ending. Let's try a different ending. What do you say? I'm gonna go back to this save file. It is time to activate my strongest power. Are you ready? Activate. Fast forward. Yay! Time to fast forward again, guys. Let's find another ending. What do you say? Show of hands, should we get another ending that's a little bit better? A little bit better. Maybe one where I, survive. Yeah, we should. Yeah. We should do that. So, yeah, let's do that. It could take a while, so... Oh, go to the movies, go for a walk. Let's see. Go for a walk. We're going for a walk, lads. Are you ready? I could watch the film on my own. Himitsu doesn't like science fiction anyway. We walked the streets of Tokyo without any particular destination, but somehow found ourselves in the park. Well, it was more like Himitsu had gently guided me here. Why the park? I don't know. We haven't been here for a while. Not together, perhaps, but I had been reminiscing just yesterday. A rather unpleasant, You vote yes as well, Geek and Rat. Find a better ending? I will. An unpleasant feeling came over me, and I could feel a lump in my throat. Nico-kun, are you alright? I couldn't even say for sure whether Himitsu knew that Catherine and I had spent a lot of time together in this park. The air here is too clean. I felt a bit dizzy. I laughed it off. Look! Himitsu said loudly and approached a tree standing by the footpath. A pretty big squirrel was sitting on a branch. Although it mostly looked similar to its European counterparts, something felt elusively alien about it. Of course, I couldn't blame the poor animal for that. What a cutie. Oh, I have nothing to give you. I checked my pockets and unexpectedly found some chocolate. Here you are. The squirrel climbed down, smelled the chocolates, but snorted and climbed back up the tree, hiding in its dense foliage. Apparently it doesn't like chocolate. Still, it's almost like a pet. I guess it's used to being fed. Let us bring some nuts next time. Yeah, that should do it. That should do for it in order to stock up and enjoy its winter sleep. Squirrels don't hibernate, that's why they stock up. How do you know that? I attend class sometimes, but your cat has stockpiles everywhere. Under the sofa, behind the wardrobe, and she seems to hibernate through the whole year. Don't insult my cat. I would have loved to have a cat myself, but that would have been unfair to the poor animal. I wonder if there are other animals here. Maybe bears. Mitsu looked at me with surprise. Or wolves. Wolves? Do you think there are wolves here? She asked, horrified, and stepped closer to me. Or tigers. Tigers are also cats. After all, they're just bigger. Or... I didn't finish the sentence, and I saw Catherine walking toward us. She was looking directly at me and seemed to have been observing us for some time now. Nico-kun! I jerked my head in the direction of the footpath. Mitsu stepped even closer than before. Hi, Catty-chan. She greeted Katya happily as she approached us. Taking a walk? Yes! I said coldly, quite unexpectedly even to myself. Really, this was the first time in almost 2 weeks that all three of us were together. Catherine seemed disappointed. She clearly hadn't expected to see me here, especially with Himitsu, but then why hadn't she left as soon as she noticed us? I was trying not to think about the reasons that could have brought her here. She was alone, just like me yesterday. How are you doing? I wouldn't call Himitsu's behavior toward Katya hypocritical, but sometimes it surprised me. Not as well as you are, apparently. Did something happen? Nothing in particular, and everything at once. You know, it happens. I wondered if our morning conversation had affected her that much. I didn't want to think Catherine simply didn't enjoy seeing us together. I don't want to go through that vicious cycle of agonizing introspection again. We saw a squirrel. It didn't like the chocolate, though, or didn't take it. All these childish remarks were quite inappropriate. What are you doing here? Taking a walk as well? Can't I? Alone? Katya frowned and flashed me an angry glance. I'm not breaking any local laws, I hope. You must know Japanese legislation better than I. I saw a sign that says you can't walk dogs here. Didn't mention humans. Well, it's good that you haven't brought a dog today, then. She smirked, and I couldn't forgive the jab. You know, I don't like dogs in general. My character doesn't like dogs? He deserves to get shot, then. We're going back to the ending 2, guys. You know I don't like dogs. Who would ever like to have someone shoot around them all the time? True enough. Catherine ended that little duel. Alright, we should probably go then. See you, Catty-chan. All of a sudden, Himitsu stole the initiative. The heck was that? For a couple of minutes, we walked in silence. You tell me. No, I don't mean you. On the other hand, what, was Himitsu supposed to fistfight her? Alright, never mind. And you're that. Why did you argue with her? I didn't. You did. Sunshine. I played my last card. You don't think it's my fault that she turned out to be here, do you? We study at the same school, live in the same city, almost in the same district. So you know where she lives? Himitsu stopped and grabbed me by the hand. Well, yeah, the same place as before. Don't lie to me, Nico-kun. She used to live far away from here, and now you're telling me it's in the same district? No, I just... That was quite a snafu. She turned around and walked quickly away. Sunshine, wait. Yes, I know where she lives, but what's wrong with that? You should have told me. Himitsu said without turning to me. I didn't think it was important. Besides, we talked about my problems, you know? Those problems. She stopped immediately. Are you trying to say that Catty-chan is somehow related to all that? No. I didn't know where to look, and it took me a tremendous effort to appear normal. However, that's how people usually know you're lying to them. And why did you talk about it with her? I didn't tell her anything. I just wanted to know why she came back now of all times. So why? Because of her mother's work. What a convenient excuse. Yes, it does seem strange, but I'm sure it's just a coincidence. Himitsu gave it some thought. There were many things she could accuse Catherine of, sure, but participation in a conspiracy wasn't one of them. Not everyone in the world wants to kill me. I smiled calmly at her. You can kill a person in different ways and over different amounts of time. By the way, Himitsu, did you know your dad killed me? It's true. It's not cool. You're speaking like a serial killer. I had been slowly approaching her and had already crouched down to catch her in my arms. Nico-kun, don't! Himitsu yelled and broke into a run. Ah! I caught up to her and wrestled her to a pile of autumn leaves neatly arranged along the road. Isn't that cute? Look at her. That blushing face and whatever. I know, right? Nico-kun! She was laughing happily and trying to break free. Her reddened cheeks were glowing, her eyes flashing, and the bright red leaves tangled in her hair seemed to become a continuum of her braids. That's when I kissed her. I gave her a kiss, instinctively driven by the heat of the moment. The situation was too romantic, and I'd been starving of intimacy way too long. Or maybe this kiss carried my true feelings. Himitsu didn't react at first, but then reciprocated and hugged me tightly, pressing herself to me. In moments like this, you lose all sense of time. We lay together, becoming one and kissing each other, while gray autumn clouds passed above us, and a mighty wind blew high in the sky, taking away the last remnants of summer. It's now October. Just like that. Eventually, I tore myself away from Himitsu and helped her stand up. Sorry. No. She shook her head, embarrassed. It was just so unexpected. Whatever you think. You almost said about Catherine. About what? Nothing. Let's go home. Let's go. I feel tired. That was a great flippin' day. We spent the entire walk back in silence. No, I wasn't regretting what I had done, but I still felt awkward. Naturally, things were even more complicated for Himitsu, so I couldn't hope for a continuation, although I wasn't sure I would be able to refuse it. When we arrived, I stopped and said, "Fast forward!" The kiss had probably embarrassed her more than I thought. Apparently, I wasn't going to get dinner. I wasn't going to get dinner tonight. However, that seemed to be the least of my problems. For a normal person, it would have been evening already, but once I woke up at 1 o'clock, I was still full of energy. My hangover had long been retreated, allowing me to come to my senses and start thinking constructively. Himitsu-san clearly thought that we were together now. I was simply too scared to dissuade her, pulling my own feelings aside, and Catherine was doing pretty much everything she could to kill my love for her. She was quite successful at it, I had to say. On the other hand, you can instantly destroy what took years to emerge and grow stronger. A phone rang in the hall. It sounded dull and sounds somehow phlegmatic. Hello? I answered the phone, and then I was whisked away at blinding speeds, fast-forwarding through my life. Ah! So now we gotta choose the right choices, guys, alright? We must choosing the right of the choices, okay? Think we'll get a better ending this time, guys, where I, survive and live? I don't know about you, but I would like that. Hello, Saya. How you doing? Good to see ya. Aw, ain't that nice. Aw, there's Kagome again. Ain't that nice or whatever. Maybe we'll survive, huh? Will we ever find an ending to this? To the seemingly unending game? I'm gonna vote with probably. Maybe even today. I'll be right back. You can rant already. Okay. Go for a walk. Okay. Go for... It's none of my... One's missing. Oh no. Go for a walk. Okay, go for a walk. It's none of my business. Okay? It's none of my business. I can't decide for you or Catherine. She has her own life. Ah! Fast forward. Oh yeah, this is when we find out the dad is evil. And Catherine might be evil. Or not Catherine, Himitsu. But she's not evil. Okay, here we go. Next choice, we need to go to the bar. Let's meet at the bar. I am starved, or maybe I wanted a drink, not food at all. I had just eaten breakfast. Okay, see you in an hour. She said, and not waiting for my reply, hung up. Damn, this is just wonderful. What if I were to tell her everything about Himitsu, her father, Ichinose? I really needed someone I could trust. Or I just wanted somebody to hear me out, someone to get this off my chest to. And since I wasn't sure if Himitsu could be that person, on the other hand, it was clearly dangerous. I reached the meeting point in 40 minutes, and to my surprise, Catherine came early as well. We sat behind a table. You're early today. So are you. I don't want to disappoint you, but arriving early is normal. What did you want to talk about? Wanted to say that we should have a fresh start. What do you mean? Was startled and even moved away from the table a bit. It may sound silly, but I've been thinking a lot, and I realize that you're right. After all, we still need to study together. I couldn't remember myself saying anything like that. At least not wording it that way. So you want to remain friends? Catherine smirked. I guess we've never really been friends. Our relationship deepened right away. But we can do everything right this time. By saying right, you're implying it was wrong before? I hope each of us can draw conclusions on that ourselves. In a sense, I'm happy to hear from her, I guess. At least now I'd be able to think about Catherine. Hang on a minute. In the bar. So... Just give me a second, guys. Give me a second. Whoops. I'm going to save the game real quick. Just really quickly. Right on top of this one. Okay, Catherine. Okie dokie. Okie dokie. Because I had definitely had more urgent issues at hand. Oh, and I can fast forward now. Yay. Nikolai, we're meeting with Ichinose. We're having a party with Ichinose. So what are you doing today, Mafia Babe? Anything cool? I'm gonna be finishing my shows this morning. I'll be playing the one game. I might play some Tomb Raider today or some Etrian Odyssey 2. Then after that, we'll see, huh? Oh, hey, Irina, how you doing? What's up? Remember the time I tied you up, Irina? Wasn't that awesome? You're gonna play games all day? Ooh, what you playing? What's on the menu today for games? Oh, hi, Catherine. Look at her cooking my food. Barging into my house like that. Huh. Having a talk with Michael. Chilling with Kyosuke. One called Dark Knights. Is it a Batman game? Batman the Dark Knights. I might go with no on that one, but I wish you luck on it, whatever it is. Would it be a game that I would like to stream, maybe? Angel Love says no, too. Fast forward through life. Catherine's talking to me. She's in love with me. But I'm with Himitsu. And we are zooming through these days. This is good. Oh, they're battling. They're fighting each other. Maybe. That would be cool. I have a long list of games I gotta beat first, but we'll see, eh? What was that noise? Honk! Honk, honk. Honk. So what's happening? Oh, hi. Hi, Kagome. What's up? Oh, it's been a real just mix of emotions with this game, huh? A real wild ride, huh? But we're gonna do it, guys. We are closing in on that true ending with Himitsu. We're gonna close in and have a good flippin' time doing the good ending and whatever. It might be a while. Oh, hi, Arena. She's back again. We're on the train. We're leaving on the train. Loading. Oh, there's Ryosuke. We had to escape. Save Himitsu. There she is. Hi, Himitsu. Oh, we gave her a kiss. Gonna get water. Alrighty, Mafia babe. See you on the soon. Have you been following the story at all, Angel Love? I don't know if you've seen a lot of these streams. We're in love with that girl right there, and we're being hunted by everything. We're being haunted by everything. It's crazy. And now we're just chilling and going to school. Not really, you missed a lot? Yeah. It's fine, don't worry about it. Don't worry, there's more stories than just Himitsu. Oh, we're in the fair again. The thing, the Ferris wheel. Oh, our first meeting with Miss Winters. Then just crazy things are going on. Oh, Ichinose-san stopped by. Trying to remember everything that happened, all the events. When's the we're leaving part? Hello, Catherine. What's up? Kind of had a little fight with Catherine. Don't think she likes us that much anymore. But that's okay. Then we have a little fight with, we fight a little bit with, her dad. Chill with Kyosuke for a bit. Talk about his Nausicaa poster. That is a cool poster. I don't care what anyone says. And now we're leaving. Now we leave. That's what I want to do. I want to leave. This place stinks. Well, not this place. This room is awesome. Oh, Irina's here. Oh, yeah, we kidnap her. Alright, here we go. We're in this stream now. We're in this stream. Oh, there was so much dialogue. But we worked our way through. You're back. Welcome back. We're almost there, Mafia Babe, to where the choices were. We're almost there. So close. We're talking with Irina. We're chilling. Relaxing. Having some ramens. Going to Kagomi's place. Gonna become a waiter and waitress duo. It's gonna be awesome. There's the grandpa. That sounds like Yoda for some reason. It was a lovely place, though. I did like, I do like this place. I'll have to visit a place like that in real life. Will that ever happen? I have no idea. Probably not. Maybe one day, We're almost there. We're approaching the gunshots. The bang bang gunshots. We're gonna get captured. We're captured! Yay! Stop. And now, I'm gonna save the game one more time. Hey Fuzzy! And Foursquare, what's up? One day is hype, and Fuzzy is hype. You're both hype, Foursquare and Fuzzy. How you two doing? We're nearing the ending of this game. Okay, obviously refusing was a really bad idea. Obviously. So, let's agree. Let's say cooperate. What happens next? I knew you would do the right thing. Oh, long night. Another long night. Well, I'm glad you're back home. Made some alterations to your gold club. They shaved an inch off the shaft. Ooh, it fits your height. That's cool. Now you can golf like a pro, right? Like the expert pro. I knew you would do the right thing. She smiled victoriously and stood up. Now I need some time to handle a few details. Wait for me here. She walked out of the room and locked the door. In her every movement and gesture, there was an unusual elegance. With smashing drives in the sim with the correct length. Awesome. Last night was the last time for a long night. Oh, the last time? What happened? Cheryl Winters looks almost killed by any desire to defy her. I was left alone, the silence broken only by the fan pushing stuffy air around the room. Let it be. Even if I had to lie, betray my parents' memory, it was all for Himitsu's sake, right? I was pacing around the room, unable to decide whether or not I'd done the right thing. The thought wouldn't leave me alone, an inch from which there was no salvation. Had I become a traitor by agreeing to everything Mrs. Winters wanted me to say? Last night of starting early. What's gonna happen now? Or was I just saving my own life? What worth are ideals when no one would know about them after my death? I'd have to live with it? At least I'd live. And still, something was eating at me. Guilt of my own powerlessness. To lose control over your life. To be forced to making decisions that disgust you. Isn't that the scariest thing there could be? A slave who does not choose a striving for freedom, but justifies and eulogizes his slavery. Such a slave is a lick spittle and a bore. Starting at normal time. Cool. What's the normal time? Does that mean no more late nights, or are you still working the graveyard shifts? Wasn't I only trying to justify my collaboration? But it's as easy to worry over morality when you aren't faced with this kind of choice. It's convenient to label others when you aren't risking your own life. I agreed to Mrs. Winters' terms to save myself and Himitsu. The reason would soon be forgotten. Only the consequences would remain, with which I would have to live. But at least that we would live. The door opened without a sound, and Catherine's mother entered the room. 9 p.m. So that's normal time, huh? Well, that's good. Hopefully, the late night shifts will not be rough for you. Sorry to keep you waiting, she said politely and sat across from me. Here is what will happen next. She told me what I had to say and how to act. Most of the words sounded like lines from a dictionary. They carried no meaning out of context. I was positive I would hear it all again more than once. Nikolai, have you understood everything? Yes. I replied and lowered my head. I had no strength to look her in the eyes. Come on, cheer up. The hardest part comes first, but you'll get used to it. Get used to what? Prison life? I didn't have the courage to say that out loud. Mrs. Winters looked confident, which was natural, since she was in complete control of the situation. Aw, you're stiff? Dang. Do some stretches and stuff. And rest the body. I could only wonder how this woman had planned everything so skillfully, taken every possibility into account, and predicted the actions of every party. Your favorite sword is called Pisco Sour. Ooh, sounds good. What does it taste like? Is it sour? And I was just another pawn in her game. After I do all that, will you let Himitsu go? You can be sure of it. I give you my word. She bared her teeth in a semblance of a good-natured grin. I knew well it was just the gracious gesture of a lion toward the lamb it only kept alive to be eaten the next day. Then there was an endless series of interrogations. First, the Americans prepared me for what I had to tell the Japanese. Days passed one by one, monotonous and identical. Did a lot of stretching last night. That's good. Tastes like white wine in liquid form. Nice. I hope it's in liquid form, geez. But I'm glad that your new drink is the tasty. I think there's drinks in this game, by the way, Foursquare. If you stick around, you'll see enough of them. Oh, but you did stretching all night. Yeesh. Must have been rough. Days passed one by one. I wasn't let outside. And when I first got out into the city, wearing a suit that didn't fit, of course a gray one, winter had already come. Aww. At that moment, Nikolai Anokin was ready to answer any question regarding his spying. Quote unquote. He could even effortlessly cheat a polygraph test. Over the time I spent in captivity, I somehow came to terms with what I had coming. I persuaded myself that this was the only way. Your week was already starting out stiff? Annoying. Hopefully that'll stop, though. In liquor form. I got you, liquor form. I presented myself with this, the only chance to save myself and Himitsu. A person who willingly rejects the freedom loses the very meaning of their existence. Their attitude toward life, themselves, and others changes irreversibly. Freedom of choice, the ability to make decisions independently, and thus rise above natural instinct, allows us to become something more than intelligent monkeys able to hold a stick. Monkeys are also able of choosing a partner for mating and following instinct, protect their kin, but the concepts of love and sacrifice are alien to them. Meanwhile, a human, when placing the interests of another individual above their own, and doing so consciously, rises above its animal nature and establishes a supremacy of spirit over matter. From there on out, our conscious self begins to define our path, not the instincts of an animal. Most of all, I was tormented by contradictions: freedom, happiness, love, and freedom. Had I done the right thing by sacrificing my freedom, and wouldn't that sacrifice be useless? But everything progressed at so fast a pace I had barely any time to think about it. The Japanese interrogators turned out to be much more meticulous than the Americans, and although I had been prepared for that, I would have been able to break anyone. Fortunately, I just had to say they wanted to hear, and all the interrogations boiled down to me confirming that my words were true. It's common knowledge that the easiest thing to believe is what you want to believe. In the end, I passed every test with flying colors. That the trial started, and it was the first time in a long time that I had to communicate with so many people. Luckily, since most of the information related to my case was classified, it was a closed trial. I was even given a defense attorney. Penix Crite. But it all looked like, and was in fact, a mere formality. It was immediately clear who knew the trial was pure theater and who didn't. People from the first category talked to me as little as they could and only according to protocol, while those from the second category, there were much fewer of those, actually tried to get to the truth. They were often surprised by my dull reactions and seeming disinterested in my own fate. What was so surprising when Nikolai Anokin was just a prop for the triumph of justice, the proof to unmask the blatant conspiracy of the genocidal communist regime? That's when I really understood how small the difference was between the Reds and the Stripes and Stars when it came to money and imperial ambitions. If you're lucky, through the lens of human history, you might end up as two dates with a dash between them in a school book. How many lives hide behind that line? Perhaps in 20 years, Irina would be mentioned in an article in a big Soviet encyclopedia. Aita would be honored with a monument, and Cheryl Winters would be the first female president. Who would remember the nameless Japanese school kid with Russian roots? All of them had their freedom of choice, the unlimited freedom that at some point becomes a power of its own, the proof of absolute superiority of the individual above others. Money, power, and millions of followers that blindly believe in the power and the idea of the inviolable, a private property, of the victory of the worldwide proletarian revolution, became fertile ground for formation of ideologies that are transcendent to nature. And then it's that control of people, replacing freedom from their will. Neither a ruler nor a simple worker notice that they are willing to sacrifice everything for the triumph of what they believe in. The only difference is that a regular person can only put his or her own life on the altar of that idea, while a ruler can sacrifice millions. History often moves forward against people's will. Who said that every era of our civilization is unequivocally defined by some higher pattern? Ideologies are like viruses. Only differences between the two is that a person infected by one ideology isn't likely to contact another, spread from individual to individual, capturing more and more space. They're inherited and integrated into our cultural code. One can imagine the population of a certain region of the earth without attaching them to a certain ideology or religion, which are based one and the same. Russians are communists, our Americans are capitalists, and our Japanese honor their elders in social hierarchies. And so we find ourselves in a world where human rights are more important than humans themselves. It's now more right and prestigious to defend abstract concepts like refugees, freedom fighters, prisoners of conscience, and minorities. On the other hand, it's enough to claim oppression to immediately gain the sympathy of millions. It's likely that's where it would end, but you might get lucky. For example, someone might organize a charity for you, from which you might get something after all the taxes and employees' salaries are deducted. The end of civilization moves further away from the individual persons and toward the simulacrum of a person, reality becoming more and more complicated every year. No longer has room for billions of people, each their own individual, and allocates them to controlled groups based on religion, race, social status, and income. Woe is not those and poorest of the most oppressed groups, but those that don't fit any of them. Testifying against myself and my dead parents, I became one of those people. Trial became, in a sense, a formality, ended quickly. The most important thing was to uncover the criminal activity of the Soviets, then quickly remove all actors from the scene, or they might say something they shouldn't have. Under different circumstances, it would probably be easier to eliminate me, since my face was in the newspapers and on television for some time. Risk of getting involved in a scandal with those human rights activists were too great for Cheryl Winters. Who was I to judge her motives and try to guess what that woman who had managed to easily outplay the KGB and manipulate the Japanese puppets thought? This is a lot of just random gobbledygook to me. The trial ended and the sentence was harsh, 10 years. Only had to hope that Catherine's mother would keep to her word. Japanese society traditionally treats foreigners badly, and Japanese prison is the last place foreigners would want to end up in. When I want to recall all the fear and humiliation I had to go through there, my sentence didn't last long, something unexpected happened after a few months. Due to general pardon. I had no doubt that Mrs. Winters had a hand in it. First glance, everything was finally behind me, unfulfilled hopes can't hurt more than physical restrictions. Don't trust, don't fear, don't beg. Himitsu didn't visit me even once in prison, attributed to the fact that I had not much time has passed yet, patiently waited for any news from her. So I was released to find that she had moved, along with Ito. They sold their house and other people were living in there. At first I could calm myself with the thought that their father had hidden her from me again. The time somewhere other than her grandma's house, whom I stalked for several days to no effect. House had been seized by the authorities. Didn't know whether they had no right to or not, neither the money nor the knowledge to sue them. Gorski was afraid to let a convict leave in his place, explaining it by saying his mother had forbidden it. First he helped me financially, rented a tiny room in the suburbs, spent all my time trying to find Himitsu. Found everyone in her family to the 7th generation, called even the most remote relative, came to school again and again to find out where she had been transferred to. In the end, I learned that her father collected her documents in person. Time passed and more noticed that no longer felt my failures as strongly. At the beginning, I'd been overtaken by desperation, and began to accept my new life, the fact that I would never see Himitsu again. The struggling inability to quickly adapt to a new changed situation felt understandable, can be fought live with, worse than when you start thinking that things are fine the way they are. I did everything I could, searched everywhere and asked everyone. Japan is huge, Himitsu could be anywhere. What was I supposed to do? I had no money, no connections, and most importantly, no hope. The pittance Kyosuke had given me soon ran out, and I had to postpone my search for Himitsu until further opportunity under threat of starvation. Tried to contact Irene or someone from the embassy, but to no avail. The KGB seemed to have forgotten about my existence, and Soviet diplomats politely refused my advances. So a citizen boy live in Japan. Petty information, formalities, bureaucracies, and administrative barriers. This is a little long. Let's get a move on here now. Utterly repulsive to the vast Russian soul. Unfortunate coincidence. Born an aristocrat with an estate of 100 serfs. Census, spring has started, school year ended, too late to go back to school, couldn't even think of trying to re-enroll and get a diploma, no time left for studying, strict for a job, every employer in Tokyo had a blacklist with me, exclude the possibility, Ito's or even Miss Winter's revenge, made me look weirder, criminal record, gonna forget about it, in the end, poor dock worker, enough money for rent, some food, and alcohol, bought a bottle of sake, 2 bottles, 3, no longer fall asleep without that, didn't connect with any of my colleagues, I was a gaijin, considered myself smart and above mental laborers, hubris and snobberous of a person stuck in the bowels, blah blah blah. Himitsu didn't want to see me, started to come more to mind, found a way, think about that, opportunity, Himitsu contacted Ito, keeping an unlocked key, right in a dungeon, in a cage, on a chain, excusing to sound ridiculous. Oh my god, game, please, let's move on now. I'm gonna read this to myself from now on. Read along. Pause and read along if you want to. Oh, was that it? Yay! And there I was, coming off to my senses in a dirty alley a year later, rain falling from the sky, blocked by laden heavy clouds, washing off the last remnants of color from the world, turning existence into a canvas filled with endless gray paint. As if an artist disappointed with their painting had thrown a bucket of whitewash over it. If only I could start everything anew. If only I knew every danger that awaited me in advance. I knew what I had to say and do. Damn it, I would have bought an almanac with sports statistics and handed it to myself in the past. Stretch. But in real life I was stuck in a dead end and that I couldn't escape by tracing my path back. I had drank through the money I had borrowed from a buddy till payday, and still had to survive until then somehow, although I was more preoccupied with the thought that I had nothing to buy booze with. The rain grew stronger, and I remembered Himitsu's smile, her puffed cheeks, and choked on silent sobs. Where was she now? What was she doing? I had come to terms forgotten and stopped unable to find the energy to keep fighting, finding it pointless. Any sensible person would have probably done the same, but not everyone would have stooped so low. Oh yes, I felt that I had hit the bottom, very abyss of the human anthill. Only the homeless and criminals were worthless to me. My only difference from them was purely formal. My sentence had been served, and I was renting a place to live. In reality, I had long stopped hope that my life would ever again be the same. What's the difference between an outcast and a normal person? The former's pathetic appearance, poverty, sickness, the contempt that they had received from others, or is it something else, not obvious at first glance? Now I knew the answer. What breaks a person is the loss of hope, not any external factors. Just yesterday you believed in a better future, if only a little, if only in your heart, knowing in your mind, and all the best is long left behind. And again there's only loneliness, and emptiness, and death. And today you make peace with it, finally look into the face of what's coming with courage. Stop deceiving yourself with daydreams, you. I become what I despised my entire life. I saw my arch enemy in the mirror, but it wasn't a devil with a sarcastic smile. Neither was it Providence hidden in a black robe or the nameless mask of a hostile society. It was my own face, haggard and seemingly aged by a dozen years. Well, a discarded person no longer has any right to complain. Neither do they need to. Don't trust, don't fear, don't beg. Taken out of the equation, they no longer have to follow its rules. Perhaps this was the cunning revenge of Cheryl Winters. She knew I'd find it harder to be free than imprisoned. In prison I would be suffering, physically and mentally. but would have to adapt to certain rules and laws, become a part of a certain group. Here and now I was merely a lonely, desperate lowlife, the slag of a consumer society, recycled and deemed no longer suitable for use. Was it really Catherine's mother's plan, or did I just make it up as I spent long nights staring at the ceiling with my eyes clouded by cheap sake? Anyway, it was too late to look for someone to blame, and neither was there any sense to it. That was also a distinctive Russian trait. I would never like to shift the blame for what happened to me to others, simply because it wouldn't change a thing. I couldn't blame Miss Winters, Ito, the Japanese, the KGB, even Himitsu, but it wouldn't bring her back. Then I was sure of it, the last stage would come, acceptance. I was half considering my job the bottom of my life, start going to a bar with my colleagues, rent a bigger flat, maybe even find a girlfriend. An ugly, fat Japanese woman. Wow, that's racist. That would laugh with and without reason, with baring her crooked teeth and squinting her almost already barely visible eyes. And then there would be children. Probably get a promotion and we'd be able to get a mortgage for a house in the suburbs. Then there would be retirement and death. Was it all Himitsu's fault? Hot raindrops ran down my cheeks, although those were most likely my tears. Strangely enough, I hadn't cried in a while, a year or so. Last time it happened was when I first realized I wouldn't be able to find Himitsu. This was probably my last. Perhaps I lived in even better than some rich and famous people. After all, I was still alive, as opposed to some singer girl who had died recently. In the life of a normal Japanese worker, there's no need to cry. Maybe only regret the years pointlessly spent. I was sure by that time my brain would be so full of alcohol and fat then that, as part of the necroevolution, ability to experience such complex emotions would die on its own. So today I was saying goodbye to my past, to my short-lived love for Himitsu. I was saying goodbye to Kyosuke, Michael, and the big empty house taken by the state as compensation for debts that came out of nowhere. I was saying goodbye to my youth and all the foolish dreams of happiness. Happiness, as I understood, was completely unnecessary for an adult person. Moreover, the very idea of it was harmful and destabilizing for a sensible member of society. That's what I had to become to survive, and despite everything, I had absolutely no desire to die. Perhaps I was just afraid of death. But most likely there was a different reason that was sitting deep inside, and that I couldn't quite comprehend myself. Like the instinctive fear of the unknown, it's better to be like this here when I know everything than to go there when I know nothing. Most importantly, I never, not even a second, allowed myself to think that I would be able to love anyone but Himitsu. Well, so be it. Our love story may have ended, I may have lost faith, and life may have proved the needless hope. But in a different world, not necessarily better, but a different one, it was snowing, not raining so wretchedly, and a different Nikko-kun was making a snowman with a different Himitsu. Yay! Under lock and key. There we go, guys. Did we do it? We did it! We beat the game! I think that was a much better ending, Mafia Babe. I lived. I mean, Himitsu's gone, sure, but yeah, we did it. Yay! Wasn't that great? There's a little image with Himitsu there. Any other images flashing through me mind? There's one. That's not Himitsu, though. Yay! Woo! I don't like that ending. Let's try for a different ending. How does that sound? Remember last time I refused, and this time I accepted or agreed? Let's refuse again. But the choice was made, and even I would regret it. That would come later had I endured this torturous waiting. The cramped room seemed to have become even more so, the silence broken only by the monotonous sound of the fan, only a grey wall visible behind the small window. How often do we regret that we haven't done in life or haven't done wrongly, the people we have lost? We may be sad, but we lived. Yep. I saw no escape. Mrs. Winter's promises sounded like empty words. This entire situation resembled a silly game. Finally, a key turned in the keyhole, quietly. The door opened, and in the doorway stood Ito. We're gonna get shot again. I was tired of being surprised, but I still didn't expect to see him, of all people, here. Nikolai, we have 5 minutes to get you out of here. He threw me a bag that I caught on reflex. Change into this. Inside was a blue uniform, like the ones mailmen wear. What does this mean? Either ask me questions or we run. Himitsu? Yes, briefly, clenching the bag in my hands. She's fine. I've been taking care of it. Now we have to get you out of this building. Why are you helping me? Probably shouldn't have argued with Ito. I had to either trust him or wait for Mrs. Winter's return. The second option looked idiotic no matter what. Of course, that woman didn't lack for cunning, sure, but I found it impossible to believe that she had planned this too. Do you want to stay here? Yesterday, I wouldn't have believed a single word of this. At that moment, what difference did it make who exactly was offering me salvation? This Ito would take me out of this room, and that was better than remaining in prison by the CIA. Besides, I had rejected Catherine's mother's offer, so the only sensible response I could expect from them was a bullet to the head. Just so you know, I still think that you're a terrible person. You may call me even the Putt, just don't put me in the oven. What? What you say to call me doesn't matter, your actions do. Joking matter, somewhat similar, would be limited, saying in English would be sticks and stones may break my bones, but names, but words shall never hurt me. He said in Russian, which made me smile despite myself. This is very different. Look, we're outside this time. He's not gonna shoot me. We walked down the dark corridors to an underground garage and then outside. The bright daylight blinded me, and I couldn't quite figure out where I was right away. We stopped. It was the square near the Kobayashi Corporation building. That was actually no surprise. This seems too easy. Was this another trick? Nobody thought you would run away. If they have such a low opinion of me, why do you need me? After you refused to do what Winters needed you to do, I realized you really do love Himitsu. What's the connection here? I really didn't understand. The resulting investigation would have obviously affected me and consequently Himitsu. In the best case, I'd only lose my job, but in the worst case... He sighed and shifted his gaze to the sky, to where it was pierced by the spike of the Kobayashi Corporation building. I need to get really sleepy that you might go to sleep. Well, if you go to sleep, Fuzzy, I'll see you another day. Maybe tonight or tomorrow. But until then, enjoy the remainder of the story. What will happen to you now? Don't worry, I've been in the field for a while, I know how to take care of myself, and you will have to take care of my daughter. Can you promise me that you will? Maybe tonight? Woo! Get ready for some Chrono Cross then. Of course, I said in too serious a voice. Everything was changing too quickly, in particular what I thought of this man. In the end, Ito had been doing everything for Himitsu's safety. I've already contacted the KGB. They'll pick you up at the place we agreed on. He looked at his watch again. I realize you're gone soon, so we have to go. We took a taxi to the suburbs of Tokyo. On the way there, Ito told me many years ago he was assigned to spy on Soviet engineers who had fled to Japan. They were working on a secret project for Kobayashi Corporation, but soon were suspected of spying for the USSR. Double agents, I guess that's what it's called. The corporation wasn't the only party participating in the project. There were Americans and its head, Cheryl Winters. Ito himself was most likely just a small fry, a support agent for the government. He knew nothing about the true goal of the project, nor the part of my parents had worked on. He had nothing to do with their death. According to him, that is. But now I had far fewer reasons to doubt his words. When we arrived, I had to deal with Irina's snarky smile, and finally saw Himitsu. Well, as if we had parted at least a year ago. She was all right. For a long time she was saying her goodbyes to her father, crying, not wanting to leave. They gave him a firm handshake, realizing that it was unlikely we would ever see each other again. The Americans may have thought me a simple high school kid before, but now to them I would become an enemy of the state. When we were put on a Soviet cargo ship at the port, Himitsu was no longer so enthusiastic about the USSR. The cabin where you could barely stand at full height, the rocking, and the terrible food, it probably wasn't her idea of a spy's life. Meanwhile, I wasn't worried about any and all of that. I was happy that I had finally managed to escape the endless cycle of paranoia and anxious expectation of danger. Besides, something had finally filled the empty spot in my heart, the one that had appeared after my parents' death and my breakup with Catherine. Their place was taken by my love for Himitsu, a feeling that brought some meaning to my existence again. So what if many difficulties and hardships lay ahead of us? So what if we would need to adapt to another country and lifestyle? Those really are trifles so long as you're with the person you love. Of course I wanted Himitsu to think the same. However, our knowledge of Russian helped to somewhat mitigate the significant difference in cultures, especially in the beginning. Despite the accent, she didn't stand out much in terms of her looks, and that helped us look like any normal young Soviet family. We were put up in a town in the central part of the country, but were allowed to meet with other relatives. Himitsu met her mother for the first time in a long while, and as always spent a lot of time crying. The one-bedroom apartment and the realities of Soviet daily life were quite different from my childhood memories. The 240 centimeters tall ceilings and the kitchen of 4 square meters were probably the height of dorms for most of the proletariat. But to me, at first, it seemed like the parody of a real home, like a dollhouse. Handlers from the KGB said we had to blend in completely. I would even have to pity the normal Soviet citizen if I hadn't become one. Of course, there were also positives. To me personally, the people seemed more sincere and honest than the Japanese, and the more hospitable once you got to know them better. Mitsu, on the other hand, kind of come to understand that her usual politeness was excessive there. We were given high school diplomas and allocated jobs. I became an assistant miller at a factory, while Himitsu got the position of shopkeeper at a bakery. At first, she protested vehemently, insisted she wanted to do further study, but it was too dangerous. At least that's what they said. But they also assured us that in 5 years we would be free to lead our own lives without the control of the state security service. Of course, given my experience with Irina, I didn't exactly believe that, but 5 years is a long time. Anything can happen to me in the country in general. Just a month ago, I sincerely believed that I would spend my entire life in that old Tokyo home. A week ago, I wasn't even sure I would stay alive for any significant length of time. And today, I wasn't only alive and healthy, but also with the girl I loved. Why can't most people believe in miracles, even when they happen before their very eyes? The reason for it is our habit of searching for a logical explanation for anything that happens to us. 100 or 2 years ago, we lived with gods and demons, spirits of our ancestors, and pathetic, pantheistic entities. Today our world has expanded significantly to neighboring planets and stars, other galaxies and parallel universes, but the internal world of each individual has shriveled incredibly. We are left alone with ourselves and the endless void of space. Where do you find room for something magical in it? Oh, hello. That was how it seemed to me. Magical that we were sitting in the kitchen and drinking tea as if that's how it was always meant to be. In a Soviet kitchen thousands of kilometers away from Japan. Oh, there's music. There's a song here. Copyright. VOD muted. In a Soviet kitchen after work in a Soviet factory. In a Soviet apartment with real entressols. I know, cute. In a Soviet apartment, we were in a cabinet made out of Soviet clipboard of our new chipboard, our new, still smelling of ink Soviet passports lay. But still, with the girl I'd known my entire life. Or was she a different one? What are you thinking about? Himitsu asked me with a smile. I just can't believe it's all real. It's as if an alarm is going to go off and I'll wake up. And then I have to go to school. She laughed, as genuinely as ever, but in a more adult way now. Laughter that had no place for naivete. You're probably happy that they didn't make us finish our studies. Of course I am. Not gonna need any more of that bliss in my life. And anyway, Himitsu was getting more and more used to her new life, with each passing day having met all the neighbors and even made a very good impression on the local old ladies. Unlike me, I was immediately labeled as a weirdo here as well. Apparently that was my destiny. And then Tanya said, You're telling me about what happened at work. I couldn't stop being surprised by how much happiness she could find in absolutely mundane things. Don't you miss it? I never asked her that question before, probably because I was scared of how she might react. Do I miss what? Japan. Mitsu took some time to reply. Well, of course I do. How can I? How can't I? But my home is here now with you. Well, I grew embarrassed. Nico-kun, do you still feel guilty? Hey, we talked about that. Honorific suffixes are alien to the Russian language and just confuse the people who speak it. But nobody can hear us here. Are you sure about that? I demonstratively looked around the kitchen. The walls have ears too. I said in a stage whisper. Let them listen. We had nothing to hide, and I was genuinely glad about that. So what do you want me to call you then? What everyone does. Kolya. I blurted out without a second thought. Fine, Kolya. Coming from her, it sounded completely wrong. Alright, let's think about this harder. She took a sip of her tea and frowned. You're always like this. No matter what happens in the country, one thing is consistent. Nico-kun's tomfoolery. Where did you even learn a word like that? I got a library card. Himitsu fired back in good nature. Do they have manga here? I don't know. Go and take a look. If you don't find any, borrow something more intellectual. More intellectual than manga? She sighed and said in a totally different tone as if daydreaming. One day I will meet my prince. Vassia from the exile-bearing production line, I remarked immediately, and we will create a social square. A social unit. I corrected her in the same swift fashion. A social unit. It wasn't the first time Himitsu had hinted at marriage, but marriage can be faulty too, as they say at our factory. Faulty, reject product, call a good thing a failure. Oh dear. Although our handlers from the KGB were on our side, cohabitation wasn't a crime in Soviet Union, but it was frowned upon. And I knew that at the time would come sooner or later. Who shall we take as witnesses? It's really a strange world, you know, like in, well, a murder? I chimed in. Yes, just like those crime scene. Some people actually see us as criminals. Mitsu lowered her eyes. In the US and Japan. I finished nonetheless. Not only us. You mean your dad? I'm sure he's doing all right. But that didn't sound very, very reassuring. He's a professional after all. Wait a year or two, he'll definitely contact us. Maybe he'll even babysit his grandchildren. Grandchildren? Mitsu blushed. Well, he would have to have one day. I averted my gaze as if embarrassed by something. You've thought about it yourself. Don't tell me that. We've been living together for... and you... I was rambling, unable to finish my sentences, trying to justify myself. Mitsu just mumbled vaguely in response. So, yes, children were indeed something I hadn't thought about. Did I want them? In reality, not just hypothetically. Of course, our income and living conditions weren't quite favorable to a bundle of joy, but if we thought that, we'd wait all the way to retirement. They weren't good, yes, but they could become better tomorrow. I still want to become a teacher. Mitsu changed the subject. A primary school one at least. Why not a Russian teacher? Because. She smiled again and again. It occurred to me that Himitsu seemed to have become older. Not so much in appearance as the impression she made on those around her. Facial expression, movements, gestures, and a new serious gleam in her eyes. Not to even mention how easily she had adapted to this alien environment. I was finding it much harder than mostly endured thanks to a new feeling I had discovered, the strong and confident love. But I want a boy. Can make one on order, she grunted. And then a girl, maybe. I'm not an incubator. I always thought you wanted a big family. I do. We had to either change the subject or immediately make love to each other. However, I was too tired after my shift, so I decided to not prolong the awkward pause. Well, then you'll have to change your surname. What do you mean? After the wedding. Yeah, she said, as if she didn't understand what this was about. I'm quite happy with your new one. Following the KGB's recommendation, I had to change my surname, so I took my mother's maiden name, which was logical. Thank God. I sighed and took a sip of my chamomile tea, by now cold. Nico-kun, she said to me somewhat hesitantly. What? If it's a boy, what will we name him? We will name him Nikolai. Junior. Himitsu, good ending. I don't know about you guys, I like that ending a little bit better. I think that was a much better ending. What do you guys think? There was the one where we lost Himiko and lived our own life, the one where we were killed, the one at rock bottom, and then this one. Yeah, I think this one's the better one. Himitsu's story was pretty good. She's super cute. And now we did it. We conquered the Himitsu storyline. So now the question is, what next, guys? What next? That answer is... we move on to the next character. New game. The question is, who will be the next character? Hang on, give me a second. The next character will be this person right here. You'll see who it is, don't you worry. He's falling Sakura petal. Okay. And the first choice, guys, that will make us change the entire thing is... Don't answer. The telephone went quiet for a moment, but immediately started ringing again. At this rate, it would keep going the whole night. Hello? Oh, hi, Himitsu, hi. Sorry, guys, we're not going for Himitsu this time. We're not gonna date Himitsu. Intervene, don't intervene. The answer is here. Don't intervene. No. No intervene. We're not intervening with you. You're nothing. You're no one. You're no one I want to talk to. Hi, what's his name? How you doing? Hi. And, what's her name? I forgot her name already. Can you believe that? Alright, let's see. Go for a stroll. Let's go for a stroll, guys. Actually, I didn't want to listen to Kyosuke's empty chatter for another half hour. Most stories about anime, manga, and school gossip. New stories every day, all equally meaningless. Not that I didn't like Kyosuke, he was a good friend, but I doubted he could be of much assistance when my mind was occupied by something altogether different from magical girls. I wasn't going to have lunch with Himitsu, but I told Kyosuke otherwise. Hallways in the schoolyard are always crowded with students. It's when it dawned on me. The roof! Wonder why. He quickly stopped by the cafeteria to pick up some rolls and a bottle of milk. The door hinge is badly in need of lubrication and screeching horribly as a powerful gust of wind welcomed me up. I was forced to take a step back and grab the stair railing to steady myself. Oh, Eliza said hello, Mafia babe. Hello. Then I found myself on the roof. A bright sun was blinding, but at least there was no one here. Or was there? At the far end of the roof, a girl was sitting on the bench eating a bento. It was Iwamura. She was gazing out in the distance toward the horizon, looking dreamy. I hesitated to approach her, remembering the morning's incident and my cowardice. What was I going to say to her? The roof seemed too small for both of us at the moment. On the other hand, I looked stupid just standing there. If I turned around now, she would think I was scared. What was there to be afraid of anywhere? I approached her slowly and stood nearby. Reluctantly, Iwamura granted me her attention. Apparently she had been aware of my presence all along, which meant I did the right thing. By all means. I hadn't expected such politeness. I sat down next to her, but Iwamura stood up immediately and practically ran toward the roof exit. Well now, I muttered, left all to myself. Probably shouldn't have intervened this morning, after all. I kept chastising myself. Maybe Himitsu and I had been too conspicuous by staring when everyone else walked past with practiced indifference. Iwamura might have noticed us. I couldn't imagine that anyone would be happy having a gawking audience in a situation like that. Reminded me of a bullfight where a little mouse had taken up the bull's place and not that the bull ever stood much of a chance to begin with. I slowly chewed on a stale roll. Really should have gone to the cafeteria. The food there was incomparably better. Even Himitsu's seaweed and grass fare would have been preferable. The breeze picked up, and on its wings the first autumn leaf tinged with yellow floated gently to the ground next to me. At least it wasn't from a cherry tree. Maybe Iwamura's personality had something in common with hers. What was that personality type called? Sanguine, choleric, melancholic? I could never keep those big words straight. Anyway, people's personalities are much more complex than that. Upbringing, environment, and experiences make a big difference. I knew next to nothing about Iwamura, but I was trying to justify her behavior by assigning the blame to anything else. But if not for the damn pedals, I probably would have even cared about any of this. I got up, crushed the leaf under my foot, and confidently strode back to class. Kyosuke was already waiting for me there, grinning ear to ear. Oh! But I was lunch with Himitsu-chan. Chan. Fine. Where was he going with this? Oh, really? So that was some other Himitsu who came looking for you 5 minutes ago? Didn't you know she had a twin sister? Her name is Shinjitsu. Yeah, sure. I swear, Himitsu was the good one, and Shinjitsu was the evil one. Or the other way around. You got very lucky, by the way. Becoming her superpower is sucking the souls out of fat and excessive curious otaku. a hardcore dedicated fan outside of Japan, in particular in Russia and the USA. It is primarily used when talking about the fans of Japanese anime and manga. Hey, there you go. Whatever, man. Kyosuke sounded offended and went back to his desk. The school day was coming to a... Ah! Hi, Catherine. How you doing? She's here. We are going to run after Catherine. What the hell was I still doing here? Sorry, I have to go, I said quickly, jumped up and rushed for the exit. Hallway. Stairs. Steps flying by. You slept till 10 a.m. today? Oh no, Eliza. Technically, I did too, actually. It's not good. Not good, Eliza. Gotta get our sleep schedules back in order. Lockers. Change my shoes? No time. I bumped into someone. He'll live. Schoolyard. Gate. Outside, cars, people. I looked right. No one. I looked left. Hello. Catherine was standing next to the school fence, looking sidelong at me with indifference. It took me a few moments to catch my breath. Better than you. What time did you wake up, Mafia babe? There was absolutely no need to rush, she said coldly. Don't be so surprised. I knew you'd run after me. What else was I supposed to do? That wasn't all I wanted to begin the conversation. Or that wasn't how I wanted to begin. When you dash off after all these years, it's only been a year and a half. Oh, so, bestie, you good? I guess, but still, you could have said something, a simple hello at least. Let's clear something up right away. If you think that I'd come back because of you, you're mistaken. 12:40 p.m.? Oh my gosh. Mafia baby, gotta talk about your sleep schedule. It's not good. Not good at all, oh no. Why then? That's none of your business. Catherine frowned. If that's the case, why did you choose this school? Why not? I studied here before, and it's a prestigious school. That's why you were late to the stream. I gotcha. I was wondering where you were. But I'm glad you're here now. I was forced to acknowledge the logic in her words. On the other hand, Tokyo had more than one decent private school. Either way, she was sneering at me. I was starting to lose my temper. You could have at least said a word or two, acting like there was never anything between us. There wasn't. She replied unruffled. We good, fam. Yours is broken. Oh no, Angel Love. Everyone's sleep is broken. I felt completely deflated. Did you wake up super late too? Had Catherine always been this cold and cruel, and I just never noticed? Has she been toying with me and my feelings that were then tossed me aside, like an out-of-style blouse she'd gotten bored of? Katya, don't be like that. Don't call me Katya. She never did like it when I called her that. How y'all sleep? Although she had never given a reason. Certainly had nothing to do with the US-Soviet relations. Alright, Miss Catherine, would you be so kind as to explain what's going on? She frowned more deeply. Catherine-san. Maybe this wasn't the best time to try and be witty. Catherine suddenly turned around and was about to leave. Without thinking, I grabbed her arm. Wait. Let go, I'm going to scream. Eek! I just want to talk. Do you really think I'm going to believe this garbage? I don't care if you believe it or not. And who are you waiting for here? What if I hadn't come running? There was no chance of that happening. She answered more calmly and stopped trying to pull away. I let go of her arm. I know you. Ah, so you know me after all, because earlier you were saying there was nothing between us. It's all in the past. I am here now because I had to come back. My mother got sent to Japan again. I get it. All I want is to talk, to understand. You're back? Welcome back, Geekin' Rat. You can't sleep till more than 10 to 11. I gotcha. You sleep late and you woke up late. Oh no. I get it. I want to talk. What am I supposed to justify myself to you? Maybe you are. To be honest, this wasn't the first time we'd argued like this. Maybe before I just hadn't thought much of the fact, accepting it as par for the course. Youngsters' quarrels are soon mended, huh? Only later, after Catherine had left me, I started to reflect and to analyze. What if she saw things differently? What if every one of our fights had caused her real stress and anguish? But even if that was the case, it was no excuse for acting the way she was now. If you're through with me, then at least be consistent. How do you know if I haven't started a new life here? Maybe I never expected to see you again. And now you show up, you don't want to talk, yet you're always around? That's an interesting state of affairs, like a rope around my neck. I know how it's going to be. I'll have to constantly endure silent glares from you. even if they don't mean anything. Ugh. Catherine was going to say something, but I continued. And I'll start to feel guilty from your silent shaming. You said yourself you know me, so you have to understand. And after all this, you're going to insist that nothing's going on, and that you don't need to explain anything to me? You can think whatever you want. Okay, I see. So we're going to feign innocence now, are we? How long have I been yelling, I wondered. Passing students glanced at me warily. The girls whispered among each other, while the guys looked on in disbelief. After everything, are you really going to tell me there was nothing between us? Is nothing now and never will be? This part was clearly too much. I blurted out everything that's been weighing down on my chest. Was I really hoping that we can get back together? Must have been. There was no point in lying to myself. But it was one thing to hold out hope when Catherine was in another country, thousands of miles away, and quite another when she was standing in front of me and treated me like I was a public enemy. She put on a barely sophisticated smile, but I could see the contempt in her eyes. Just think I deserve an explanation. But no point in explaining anything to you, Catherine remarked in parting. Whatever, this isn't over yet. We're in the same class now. A girl told her friend not to look my way as the two walked past. If you probably guessed, guys, we are going after Catherine this time. To hell with it, I hissed under my breath on the way home. Think she's so special? I've seen better. I was angry at Catherine, really angry. We had quarreled before, but this time she treated me like dirt. Was ever a good time to purge her from my heart? Wasn't it now? A bunch of boisterous middle schoolers ran past me. One of the boys caught me lightly with the shoulder and said, "Sorry, Oni-san," as in dude, man, Uncle Gramps. Didn't really look that old, although the way I'd been reasoning just now, I wondered how long I'd be able to hold a grudge against Catherine. Would I forget again and revert to an idealized image that clearly did not match the girl I had just been arguing with at the school gates? Only after getting home was I able to calm down a bit. Woo! More fast forward time. This is all dialogue I've read already. Kyosuke must have told Himitsu everything. Everything's fine, just a bit unexpected. Don't worry, I'll be alright. Did you like Catherine Mafia, babe? 'Cause she's next. She's the next one. BRB. Alrighty, Eliza. Let's see. Say the two of you used to date. We were in a relationship at one point. She's okay. She's okay. Oh, here's her again. Good old Ellie, right? Let's see. Don't hide. Sorry, Ellie. I'm not hiding with you. Sorry, bro. No hiding from you. Or with you, rather. Here's the punks again. Here's Catherine. Catherine was sipping on her cocktail. Oh, it's too bad Foursquare's not here. He would recognize this. Foursquare, are you still here? Expression of absolute indifference. All signs of yesterday's emotional storm were gone. No, of course not. It's just when I think about how we parted back then. That's all in the past. You don't really think that I should have chosen a different school or changed my life anyway just because of you, do you? Why would I do that? Simply to avoid running into you again? And I read this stuff already, apparently. Your new girlfriend? You have a girlfriend? Is it me? Alright. Say I was with Catherine. I was with Katya. Really now, why was I feeling all embarrassed about this like an 8th grader on his first date? Apparently I read this already, so... Maybe we can get through these other stories somewhat fast now. Oh yeah, are we in danger in this chapter, by the way? That's the big question right now. Am I going to die in this chapter? Do nothing. Quit psyching yourself up, my mind protested. Yo, let's rock out with our bro Ellie. Our broette Ellie, rather. Don't worry, Mafia. We'll get to Ellie eventually. Ellie will definitely be a girl we will court at one point. Go to the roof. Go with Himitsu. Let's go to the... What does it say? Two things here. Well, it says go to the roof first, so I guess we'll go to the roof. We went to the roof. No, in the end I was stupid to think I'd distract myself from the... Ended up being on the roof. Not being alone on the roof either. Kagome was sitting on the bench. What a coincidence. Was this her office or what? I see. I started and decided to look for a more secluded place. Leaving so soon? She called out to me. Must be intruding, and I wanted to be alone. You aren't, although you can do what you want. Alright, but watch out, you might regret this later. Stupidity isn't contagious. I shrugged and approached and sat down beside her. Decided to hit your head against something in silence, and I immediately wanted to tell her to fuck off as well. No, I wasn't waiting for your rating. Will you be using a 10-point scale or a 6-point one, like in figure skating? You like figure skating? No, damn it, I just know general knowledge. You ever heard of it? Then it dawned on me. Realized that she didn't care a bit about me, and that even made me glad. With everyone else, I had some kind of an emotional connection. Stronger with some weaker than others. Himitsu, Catherine, Kyosuke, Michael, even Ichinose. And this girl was sitting next to me, not giving a damn. Which means she didn't need anything from me. She wouldn't poke her nose into my business or ask me stupid questions, and go on lectures based on her own experiences and mistakes alone. Although Kagome was still acting braver than a couple days ago. So what happened? You mean? You're weird, sure, but you never hit your head against a disc before. Didn't I say? I wanted to check if there's a brain in there. And what's the verdict? Regrettably negative. That was to be expected. She smiled. Somehow, automatically, I did too. But Kagome immediately grew serious again. Seriously though, it's about this Catherine Winters, isn't it? Why do you think that? Have to be blind not to notice. Even if it is, what about it? It's not the most pleasant topic of conversation for me right now. Makes sense. She smirked. You know what? I abruptly stood up and got ready to leave. Alright, sorry. Back. Welcome back, Eliza. What's up? Kagome said placatingly. I'm not very good at getting along with people either. Now this was unexpectedly frank. But why either? Of course you wouldn't. Stop acting like that. How exactly am I acting? She frowned and turned to me. Like that, you know what I mean. No, go on. God, I can't even go to school normally anymore. Why do you even go here in the first place? It's clearly not to study. And what about you? Enjoy being a punching bag that much? Bullseye. That hurt. Kagome bit her lip. No wonder she ditched you. I shouldn't have told her that. With you, the only options are hanging, drowning, or drinking poison. Or you could jump. I gestured toward the edge of the roof. You first, Anokin-san. No, please, be my guest, Kagome-san. This began to resemble a game where the winner was determined by those whose patience would run out last, and I had no intention of losing. The roof was too small for the two of us. Oh, so we're that close already? We could be even closer. I don't mind. What's the meaning of my words got through to Kagome? She blushed, jumped up, and quickly headed for the exit, leaving with one last word. Asshole. Wonderful. I won. And my only applause was the quiet howl of the wind, with the rare already yellow leaves in place of a laurel wreath. I defeated all of my enemies and was left completely alone. Makes sense. We won, guys! We did it? Oh, there's Himitsu and Catherine hanging out again. Alright. Go to Himitsu is next. Go to Himitsu. I went to Himitsu. She is jealous. Why are you asking? We've seen each other briefly in a hallway. She flashed an acute smile and turned to me, and seemed like her hair was ablaze with the bright rays of the sun. I grew embarrassed and looked away. I want to say I don't want you to think I was eavesdropping on purpose. It just turned out this way. Anyway, I heard you talking today. What do you mean talking? Her expression didn't change. Ah! Carry her away! To the house. To the house. Talking with Ichinose. Or whatever. Loading. It's the next day. Hello. It's kind of weird that we're not dating Himitsu this time, huh? We're going for Catherine instead. Whew. Okay. Do nothing. We are doing nothing, and you can't stop me from doing nothing. No, it was a stupid idea after all. Whatever your name was. I didn't forget her name. No, that's wrong. Nuh-uh. Alright. Let's see. Check Catherine's old apartment. Okay? Still, no matter how I looked at it, it was better to start from the beginning. Catherine has been living in that apartment with her mother for a long time. Why wouldn't they go back there? You know, I've got some things to do today. And another stupid, thoughtless lie. Well, no, not really. I just promised to meet with a friend. Who's not you? A stupid, slightly thoughtful lie. Himitsu looked at me like she was about to say I have no friends. Alright. Of course she wouldn't say something like that, and I knew it. It was a fail-free excuse, just barely good enough to pass. Just had to make sure to not use it too often. Lol, TY. Welcome back. Wanna come by later today? I got a lot of homework. Himitsu dropped in response, trying to sound uninterested. Maybe it would work with someone else, not with me. Well, alright. Till tomorrow, then. Till tomorrow. She didn't even smile. She hates me. I felt guilty over Himitsu, but tried as hard as I could to distract myself from these thoughts. The Winters family old apartment was located at the very center of Tokyo. So I was just attracted by the local rhythm of life, and all the neon lights at night, the abundance of various offices and shops. It contrasted nicely with the district where Himitsu and I lived. Hundreds of thousands of yen in a square meter, millions of yen flowing through the accounts of big companies, offices at the top floors of gigantic skyscrapers, and a couple thousand yen in my pocket. It was a comparing of poor fishermen from Hokkaido with a powerful shogun from Hansu. Oops. Whatever. I wasn't jealous of the wealth of others and didn't strive to get rich myself. I wanted to see the world and show what I was capable of. In some sense, I was even glad I didn't have to chase after money 24 hours a day for getting the sleep and rest. Although that was because of my high morals, which I didn't have, but probably because I didn't need much to be satisfied, just the bare minimum. I never wondered if I'd be happier having an apartment in a penthouse, a yacht, or a personal airplane. Given the choice, I would most likely ask a djinn or something spiritual, not mountains of gold and toilets of platinum. Seized by these thoughts, I didn't even notice when I reached Catherine's old place. Of course, her apartment was occupied by other people, something I should have expected. After all, it belonged to the embassy and was given to other workers, while Catherine and her mother were offered housing somewhere else. Well, at least I tried. I was aimlessly wandering through the city, oogling the luxurious storefronts at their exorbitant prices. Maybe earlier I'd exaggerated a little bit about platinum toilets. Given extra cash, I would have definitely bought some things on the sale here. For the last half an hour, it seemed like someone was tracing my steps. Not properly following me, the attempts of the pursuer felt too amateurish. Finally, I got tired of it and dove into an alleyway and hid myself. And there he was, the evildoer. I grabbed him by the hand and dragged him out of the crowd. I found in front of myself a cute, surprised face, two braids, and pouting lips. How long exactly have you been following me? Since you left school. I thought we were dating and got married. She answered resentfully. Why? What would you do in my place? You said you were going to meet a friend, and instead... Instead what? Himitsu bit her lip in frustration and managed to get a hold of herself and say, Didn't Caddy-chan live in here before? Well, let's say she did. And you said, is she there now too? No. I gave a short answer, and not letting Himitsu get a single word in, continued. Let's go home. Nico-kun, wait. Nico-kun, just get the... It would have probably been easier to take the subway, but for some reason I wanted to go for a walk. Himitsu was dragging herself along, everything about her implying I'd better explain myself. And I gladly would, if only I knew what to say. As it stood, however, I just wanted to pay her back, in a sense, by spending time together. Even simply wandering the streets. You should go looking for schemes when there are none. I said, stopping at a big storefront. What do you mean? She wanted to talk and to find out why she returned. Why she transferred to our school again. I have to write, don't I? Himitsu quickly mumbled in response and lowered her eyes. It doesn't mean anything, really. It doesn't really mean anything. You shouldn't follow me. Everything will be alright. Although I knew perfectly well that Himitsu was following me for different reasons entirely. I could have also said, don't be jealous. Maybe I should have done something like that. Just to calm her down. Not to lie, no, just to leave the hardest part for later. For when I would have finally sorted out my relationship with Catherine. But deep inside I knew it would probably never happen. To sort out a relationship, you have to start with yourself. I don't believe you, she suddenly said with resolve. It'll all end up like year and a half ago again. You'll suffer. Himitsu, wait. Don't you understand? That's how it'll always be with her. She's incapable of loving anyone but herself. She just likes to hurt others. Calm down. I just can't understand. How can you stand someone treating you like that? It's not even love anymore. It's masochism. Himitsu, enough already. If I were in her place... Tokyo Central Business District was noisy. But a hysteric in the middle of the street was too much even for this place. People looked at us in alarm, and I even started to feel uncomfortable. Let's talk about this at home. I don't want to. I won't. Talking is useless. What for? For you to nod your head again, and then in the end do what you want and hurt me? The expression on her face shifted to one of deep resentment. Her lips trembled. The first most bitter tear started swelling in the corners of her eyes. I can't keep going like this. If not for her, if only it wasn't for her, it would all be like before. Why does she simply take what she has no right to? I hate it. I hate it. At that moment, I forgot all about Catherine. I had to calm her down. It wasn't even about Katya. Poor Himitsu just didn't deserve to be treated like this. On the bottom of my soul, I was rising a burning sense of duty, immeasurable duty to Himitsu that I wouldn't be able to pay off no matter how much I tried. I hugged her and pressed her to my chest. I felt her in my hands, the fragile girl, the only human being who really cared about me. The sobs became quieter, and eventually Himitsu's breath grew even. I know. I guess we're going with the Himitsu route again, Mafia. It's always Himitsu forever. Let's go home. She gave a slight nod and took me by the hand. This wasn't the first time for yet more excuses or trying to sort things out. Being with her was good enough. When we reached home, it was already evening. Probably need to get some sleep. Himitsu responded without even looking at me and slowly headed for her home. Well, night brings counsel. Perhaps things would calm down by tomorrow. Although I knew perfectly well that these sort of hysterics would uncharacteristic of Himitsu would probably have consequences. We are now entering the fast-forward mode once again. Woo! Alright, what are we doing? Stay home, apparently. This would be a waste of time. I spent half a day yesterday looking for her, and that only resulted in a fight with Himitsu. Walk. Well, shockingly, the thing says to stay home today. So that is what I will do, Eliza's. We got a chance to talk about the day after tomorrow anyway. Talk? About what? What would be the point? Oh, F it all! Oh my gosh, swearing, guys. I can't even right now. And you know what? I'm gonna save right here. And right here. There we go. I'm gonna save on 2 profile pages. And because I can't even right now, I'm actually going to main menu. Yep, I think that'll be it for today, guys. Let's check the gallery. Ooh, look at all the songs. There's so many I have now. But I'm still missing some. Backgrounds. We got some more backgrounds now. Not all of them. We're still missing a bunch. And for CG... yeah, once again, we're missing a fair few. Alright, guys. Thank you all for stopping by. We have conquered one girl, and there's 3 girls to go. Can we win? Can we defeat them and make them love us? Or can we make them fall in love with us? We'll see. But yeah, take care, guys. Bye, Angela. Bye, Eliza. Geek and Rat, Mafia. You all be awesome. Have a great day. And I will see all of you... What do you say? Tonight? Yeah, I think tonight. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.